Welcome, my friends, to this special edition of HONKcast IRL. Of course, we changed the name in solidarity with our trucker friends and protesters standing up for freedom, individual liberties. And we got big news on this one. The latest is that the Ottawa police, they want military intervention, but authorities are concerned. They're saying that these protesters may be armed. That's really fascinating because last night we talked about how the right to keep and bear arms is a deterrent from government overreach. And because of the potential for protesters being armed, the military doesn't necessarily want to come in. But who knows? Things are getting really, really crazy. Trudeau, of course, last night, once again, smeared the protesters as all the worst things in the book, and it's all big lies. Because the reality is this is a worker revolt, a worker uprising. We're seeing a couple interesting things. There's a subreddit called Lockdown Critical Left asking why it is that this is an uprising of workers and the left opposes it. And of course, all of these people who are actual leftists are like, yo, the left has been co-opted by corporate interests. That's it. And then we have a post from the Ottawa subreddit organizing a protest against the workers. Now, they claim to be the left or whatever, but I got to tell you, they're fascists. These are people protesting in support of government rule by decree. Major corporations producing products that the government then mandates on people. And these people want to support that. So, yeah, fascists. We're going to talk about all that. We got CNN, man. The president of CNN is out. A huge scandal is erupting. Brian Stelter's blaming Chris Cuomo ratting out Jeff Zucker because Jeff Zucker was sleeping with the chief marketing officer who used to work for Cuomo's brother, Andrew Cuomo. Whoa, scandal. CNN's imploding. All right. We're going to talk about all that, plus some news around January 6th. More subpoenas are coming out with the January 6th committee. And joining us to talk about all of this is journalist Julie Kelly. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Julie Kelly from Naperville, as Tim.
From Naperville.
So aptly, fellow Chicagoan. So I am a writer for American Greatness, amgreatness.com, and for the past year have been obsessed with the events of January 6th and the DOJ's abusive investigation into January 6th, the J6 committee, and how they're using that 4-hour disturbance to launch a war on terror against the political right, which is in my book.
4-hour disturbance.
4 hours.
Yep.
Yep.
And it has become this insane narrative among Democrats. And I love how they say it's bipartisan because they have Liz Cheney. Like anyone believes it's bipartisan. Right. But it's insane what's going on. Yeah. Now they're claiming that the Republicans who signed elector slates for Trump in the event there was a legal dispute, which has happened before, they're claiming they were forged documents and it's insurrection. Mm-hmm. They're trying to bar several members of Congress from running for re-election, claiming they're insurrectionists. This is crazy stuff.
Yes, it is. That is a political war and intended to silence political dissent and terrorize people into not protesting the regime. The resistance... #the resistance was really cool for like 4 years. Remember, everybody thought that was great. Then all of a sudden it became, insurrection on January 6th. So this is what they're doing. And we have political prisoners in the United States. And we have hundreds of defendants, 730 people have been arrested so far. They're adding new people every day. And this is the DOJ's, they're acting as the law enforcement arm of the Democratic Party, which they have now for the past several years. So nothing new
I'm gonna say it. Civil War.
Oh.
But we'll get into the detail about what that means, because when you're when you're filing lawsuits to bar politicians from re-election, that it's not even politics anymore. It's right. We're at the gates of something else. But we'll get into all that stuff. We got Seamus
Coughlin of Freedom Tunes. I'm a political cartoonist. I like to make animations about current events. We're releasing a cartoon about the Great Honkening tomorrow. So I hope you guys check that out and enjoy it. And I'm very glad to be here. I think this is going to be an interesting and enlightening conversation.
You're so serious when you it's like you watch Freedom Tunes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, I'm a political cartoonist. I make funny jokes about
I do
politics.
these little cartoons. Look, I start to get wild on the show, all right?
True,
it's just like I can't come right out the gates being too crazy. People are going to shut this off.
That's fair.
Thanks for
There's
easing
only so
into
much
it.
zaniness that a person can handle.
One zane at a time.
Exactly. Just you wait.
Thinking about resistance, it makes me think about the Vietnamese and how after the Korean War, 1950s, they realized they can't resist the American Air Force. It's impossible. So they had to build tunnels. They had to think outside the box to resist. And I see these people resisting with a hammer. They want to walk in and stand there and resist in the old-fashioned way, and then now I'm seeing this political hammer come down on these people. There's other ways to resist. I'm interested in talking about that stuff, but we got to get these people out. I mean, this is just it's one of the greatest travesties of American history, and it's because we're in it. I don't think people realize how dangerous it is.
Yeah, I hate to be the negative Nancy on this one, but I think it's going to get darker before
No doubt.
before the dawn. But we'll get into that stuff. So Ian's chilling.
Yeah. Hit me up at iancrossland.net, but first watch the show.
Yes, I am also here pushing buttons in the corner, as I do. I love doing that. That is my job. And I do think that this January 6th thing really kind of puts to bed the idea that Biden winning was going to bring any kind of normalcy back to the U.S., especially what they were doing with Rogan, too. So hopefully we get into some of that during the show.
Not to mention Biden's approval rating is beyond in the gutter.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member to help support this show, the work we do, all of our journalists that we have on staff writing news for you every single day. We are principally funded by all of your contributions as members, but as members, you'll get access to exclusive members-only podcasts from this show, the uncensored version, and we have a massive library of all of this content you're not going to want to miss at timcast.com. And I also want to announce we made a new t-shirt based on the show yesterday, so go to timcast.com, click the store, and you can get your very own free HONK t-shirt. It is basically modeled after the free Hong Kong flag, which was several leaves, and they had like the style of art. And so we have made this free Hong Kong shirt in two different colors, red and black. Red and white because it's Canada, and it says free Hong Kong. And then we have the black version, which is more like the Hong Kong flag. So if you want to help get the message out, support the movement, support the great honkening, and at the same time support our work, it's greatly appreciated. And we really do appreciate everybody's support. So don't forget, smash that like button. 1 like equals 1 honk. And don't forget to share this video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Let's read the latest update on the great honkening. The Guardian reports Ottawa police are considering military intervention to end unlawful blockade. Authorities warned bringing in the military carried a massive risk as they believed the protesters are armed. What's really, really fascinating about this, let me read this paragraph. The Ottawa police chief, Peter Sloley, warned on Wednesday that officers did not have the resources to remove a fleet of trucks parked by the protesters in the national capital, adding the city was considering requesting help from Canadian armed forces. What did we say yesterday? We said, even if they wanted to, the police would not have the means to remove these trucks. And if some of these truckers are just driving my truck, what can you do about it?
Yep.
The tow truck companies reportedly are refusing to get involved. They've said, various companies have reported as saying, we have agreements within the community. We don't want to get involved in whatever this is, but the protests and the government stuff, leave us out of it. So you basically have these truckers in Ottawa, along with a bunch of other cars, wailing their horns, and there's nothing the government can do to stop it. The military won't be able to tow anybody. The truckers are here to stay. And it's really, really simple. If the people of Ottawa, if the government wants it to stop, just comply. If you just comply, you'll get your city back. It's not hard. It's only 2 weeks of honking to restore the freedoms.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, there's just something so beautiful and satisfying about seeing the worst, most controlling group of people you've ever seen in your life not being able to force their will onto a group of people. It's like they finally found something they couldn't get past, and it's glorious.
You know, I was thinking about, there's this video of a guy and he's yelling, I haven't been able to sleep in 5 days because of the honking. And I was like, I literally don't care about you, guy. You sat back while the government steamrolled by decree all of this awful stuff that caused strife and chaos in people's lives and destroyed their businesses. And now people are honking their horns. Oh, no. The only reason this guy is yelling is because he thinks he has a right to tell them to stop. You see, he didn't do anything to stop the government from steamrolling over people's rights.
No.
But now he's going to go to a trucker and be like, I'll yell at you. Sorry, buddy. You've got the workers rising up and saying no. If you wouldn't stand up for your rights then, what do you think you're going to get accomplished? Look, it's remarkable that you can clearly see the dynamics of the political landscape here. The government can do it. He won't complain. He says, what freedoms have you even lost? But when the people stand up and create discomfort, now he's mad. You know what? Go lick a boot, dude. I don't care to hear it.
I'm thinking about the at the end of World War II, when the Americans and the British were rolling through Germany and liberating I mentioned this once before on the show, all the German citizens that had just been standing by and watching it happen were now getting basically conscripted out of their houses to go clean up the concentration camps and forced to look at it with their own eyes and see this is what they've done. They weren't in a position to tell the American troops stop honking, because it had gone that far. We haven't gone that far yet, and hopefully we won't. But you can't sit by and comply with a tyrannical government and expect when the cavalry comes in to fix the situation that you're not going to be pulled into it.
Yeah.
Well said.
Also, can you believe being like, I understand it's a little frustrating to have people honking your horns, but it's like, oh my goodness, the people who bring me all of my food and literally everything I need to survive without complaining every single day are making noise when I want to sleep one time in my entire life. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
I'm
It's
very
sad.
sympathetic, yes.
Yeah. You know what, man? The honking will continue until freedom improves.
I like that.
I would be opening my window and cheering. You know what I mean?
What's interesting is the ruling class now being exposed for the contempt that they have for the common man. It used to be even Republicans here, Democrats obviously, standing for working class individuals and them collectively. But now they can't even hide their contempt. They can't even hide their contempt for who Hillary Clinton called the deplorables, and now Justin Trudeau, who won't even deign to meet with these people, saying he doesn't agree with them like he did the BLM protesters. So you just have this global contempt of the ruling elite finally fully exposed for hating the people that they're supposed to protect and defend. And I think that's sort of what happened, on January 6th, same thing.
Oh, yeah. You know what really blew my mind is I was browsing Reddit about an hour or so ago, and there was a post where it said something like, it was in Ottawa. Someone put in their window, it said, Nazis F off, and there's like a swastika with a line through it.
Right.
And then I saw that, and it's a top post, and I was just like, geez, they are laying on the propaganda so thick.
Boring.
Right? But I looked at the comments, and the comments on Reddit's always leftists being like, the right. No, the comments were people saying like there was one guy, like this is so dumb. Like, people were saying like, look, I get the honking's annoying, but it was literally one guy with a flag, seriously. And then someone else was like, yeah, but what about the Confederate flag? And then all the responses were like, we watched them throw that guy out of the protest. Propaganda's not working. I mean, we'll get into it later, but CNN just completely imploding.
No, if you can't propagandize a bunch of Redditors and get them to accept the narrative, you have no hope. There's nothing.
Because Reddit is such an easily astroturfed platform that I'm pretty sure, like, if you were to ask me based on what I know about marketing and what's going on with these social media platforms, I'd be willing to bet, and we do know this is true to a certain extent, Reddit is basically just political organizations manipulating the platform to create the perception of popular opinion. And Republicans are really bad at it, so they don't. And the Democrats are much better at it. And big tech works with them and colludes with them. So you go on Reddit, man, all of the top posts are like socialists, communists, far left, everything. It is mind numbing. But when even that stuff isn't working, how do you propagandize people that you're the workers, that you're standing up for the poor people when it's truckers, non-college educated, for the most part, people who are just working class jobs, who are as Seamus said, bringing you your food, and they're the bad guys? I don't think that narrative is going to fly.
So do you think it's safe to say that they believe, obviously, that the next step after propaganda is to bring in the military? Because that's what it looks like to me.
Remember we were talking about, was it Tales of the Economic Hitman or whatever that book was called?
Yeah.
Was that what it was called, Ian?
Economic Hitman, yes. It wasn't Tales, but something like that.
Tales. It was like
A story, like
stories, or something like Confessions. Was it Confessions of an Economic Hitman?
Yeah.
He basically said that, and I'm going to butcher this, but it was something like, first they come to you and ask you to like be on their side. You reject them, then they come back and say, "How about some money?" Then you reject them, then they kill you. Or it was something like that.
What they'll do is they come in and try and bribe you to join their side. If you say no, then they try and assassinate you. And if they can't, then they issue full-scale military war.
So this seems to be like where we're at, right? First they try propagandizing. It's not the exact same thing. That doesn't work. Now they're trying to organize counter-protests.
Yeah,
and they're already talking about bringing in the military.
You'll see they'll probably single out an individual in the trucker convoy and then start propagandizing him, because then they're going to do the ad hominem attack next.
They did that.
Oh, they did
did.
one.
They did that. It didn't work. So first they smear the whole event. Oh, they're a bunch of far right racists. Then we started seeing posts about like this organizer is far right and associated with the alt right and blah blah blah. Nobody cared. It's getting bigger. The honking grows. The honking continues until freedom improves. Now they're talking about military.
Well, and this is what I think happens. They've overplayed their hand to the point where everyone who sees the propaganda knows that it's ridiculous. And they don't get that back. That's the wonderful part about it. Once you overplay your hand, like it's not like you get the cards back. People are just never going to trust them when they talk about anything ever again. And it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. This is about so much more than just truckers, right? And everyone knows that, and it has been from the beginning. They're asserting their rights as workers. And so it extends to all other people in all other fields that are necessary. But also, they're really standing up for the ordinary person of the nation they're from. And I think other nations as well. And they're also making it perfectly clear that the average person does not accept the narrative being put forward by the media.
Just wait until QAnon shows up in Canada, though. That is going to really be a game changer, because that will show everyone that this is orchestrated. I'm joking.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
You know, Q. I mean, when Q shows up.
I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna let you say what you have to say. No,
that'll be next. It'll be this is the Canadian Q. They've already tried. This is Russia propaganda, right?
Yes,
exactly.
And they've had the Confederate flags,
and
they've had the
Nazi
then
flag,
they had the informant there who they kicked him out. But pretty soon it's going to be Q.
But
it's going to be
wait.
Canada Q. There'll be like Q.
There was a lady on TV who was like, now because of Canada's support for Ukraine, do you think Russia could be involved?
Oh my gosh. Well, this is the thing, right? They only have so many tricks in their bag. They're remarkably uncreative people. And the thing is, these tactics have kind of worked for a little while, but more and more people have been waking up to them. And I think we're finally at the tipping point where no one believes it anymore.
I've been looking at anti-work and work reform on Reddit for months now, and they're saying like, workers of the world unite. Where are these leftist subreddits when the workers are uniting?
Hold on, the anti-work Reddit says, why don't they say like non-workers of the world unite?
Yeah, really.
Isn't there a whole thing that they don't?
The funny thing is that anti-work initially was this radical idea that no one should work.
I don't want a job.
It's the stupidest thing ever. And they try and act like they're smart. They're like, well, I was reading a book by Marx and he explains capital. When in reality, they're like lazy, living in their trash apartments on government benefits, and they're saying like, but I don't want to walk dogs anymore.
20 hours a week.
And we saw that on Fox, and it was a PR disaster for them. But it anti-work evolved into a work reform subreddit after the whole debacle where they did this interview on Fox and were exposed as being people who just didn't want to do any work and were kind of lazy. The work reform subreddit took off. Now, I agree with a lot of work reform. I think, the corporate structure in a lot of ways is a lot of really bad things. I think student loan debt has reached critical mass and the whole system is broken and needs to be totally reformed. But why aren't these people coming out and being like, hey, look, the workers are finally rising up. This is a really good thing. Why don't we stand in solidarity with the working class? Oh, because the actual working class don't believe in their far left psychosis, their insane policies.
They never have. Right. Well, I mean, I think we got the first taste of this after Trump was elected, and it became apparent that right-leaning people tend to be more in touch with what your average working person actually wants, and the Democratic Party doesn't really represent those people. Now it's as clear as it's ever been. But this was not our first view of this.
In like 2018, I had an opportunity to go back to Ohio and live in Ohio for a little while. I'd been in like LA before that, New York, Chicago. I'd been in these big cities. And at first I was back in I was living in a farm town in Ohio, and my friends were like, Trump. And I'm like, Trump, why? Like, what's going on? What? And it hurt. It was like being in like some sort of acid, like a pool of acid. It was burning me, but I came out so much stronger because I wasn't being manipulated anymore. I was seeing things from this other like worker's perspective that I'd been just lost. It'd been lost to me in the big city for 15 years. It was really incredible. The power of the worker, man. I
want to show you guys this subreddit post from Lockdown Critical Left.
Oh, yes.
This is amazing. It's from 2 days ago. Cool Spectre wrote, workers are uniting in solidarity against an authoritarian government, and the left is against it. The trucker convoy is the closest thing to a working class uprising I've seen in my lifetime. I wasn't around in the 60s, and yet the left is somehow against it. Isn't this exactly the kind of thing the left should be supporting? Are there even any working class people on the left anymore? Why do they all seem to be Zoom tech workers or unemployed? Why is the actual working class overwhelmingly not on the left? It's really unsettling to see actual working class unity taking direct action against fascist mandates, and the left is taking the side of the fascists.
Yep.
Except for those of us who have been watching for the past 10 years, it's exactly what's been happening the whole time.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I mean, to add another layer here, you have the left literally after, 2 years after the summer of love and these protests and all of this anti-police rhetoric. They are now like begging the police to come in and crack down on a workers.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we went
military.
from ACAB. Yeah, now it's ATAB.
It is Canada, so, to be fair, it's a different country, but you're right.
They have BLM protests in Canada
Right.
too. Yeah.
And Trudeau stood with them, and
Sure
I'm
did.
sorry, kneeled with them.
Yeah, that's
Kneeled
right.
with
Yeah,
them,
sure
yeah.
did.
So he bent the knee. Why isn't the working class returning the favor, right? But of course, it's because BLM and these leftist groups never represented the working class in the
course
first
not.
place.
Yeah, so my favorite author is Terry Pratchett, and he has the perfect quote about this. He says, people on the side of the people, capital T, capital P, always ended up disappointed in any case. They found that the people tended not to be grateful or appreciative or forward-thinking or obedient. The people tended to be small-minded and conservative and not very clever and were even distrustful of cleverness. And so the children of the revolution were faced with the age-old problem. It wasn't that you had the wrong kind of government, which was obvious, but that you had the wrong kind of people. And I think that's what the left is discovering.
Entirely.
I think
Yeah.
they've known this.
Yes.
For a long time. It's why there was this really funny moment where in Seattle, some like socialists came out and were protesting against Amazon. And then some trade workers and like construction guys and contractors showed up in their vests and hard hats and started chanting them down because they were the actual working class guys. These intelligentsia, college graduate types think they're working class. They're quite literally not. They're the intelligentsia.
I represent the working class. Well, no.
Yeah.
It's also funny because the left has always tried to say that they represented the working class, but then they'll take all of these wildly unpopular social positions that your average working person does not believe in at all and then try to force it on them. So it's like, even with situations outside of this, I'm pro-working class, except I think a working class person should lose their job for stating something in a public forum that literally every other working class person believes about transgenderism, for example.
Yeah, like Whoopi Goldberg, they suspend her.
She's a good working class woman.
That's right,
And
she
they come
is.
after her with this
How
cancel
dare
culture
they.
nonsense.
It's so obvious because it really is about money. Here she is making but a humble $96,000 per
pittance.
week.
Yes,
per
indeed.
week.
per week.
And of course, because
It's not
she
even
doesn't-
6 figures.
Yeah, not even 6 figures
Per week, yeah.
Per week. And so she can't defend herself. And so she gets suspended for 2 weeks. It's
terrible.
Oh, heavens.
When will the workers rise up?
You know
No,
what I thought about?
but I bring that up real quick just because as a good example of what happens to Whoopi Goldberg when she doubles down on offensive comments. Gina Carano, on the other hand, who didn't say anything offensive, she said, "Don't demonize your neighbor." She loses her job.
Well,
I thought that Whoopi thing was an example of critical race theory having gone too far. It went too far because she all of a sudden is now starting to think that if someone has the same skin color as someone else, that they're the same race. Skin color has nothing to do with race. Maybe not.
Well,
Maybe it's
something
not
to
safe
do
to
with it,
say.
yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's not safe to say nothing. But if you take someone out of a place on Earth and put them somewhere else, within 2 or 3 generations, their skin color is going to be different. Their kids,
Well-
their grandkids are going to look way different than if you put them in like sub-Saharan Africa.
Let me try and help you out, Ian. And by making this point, there are Asian cultures that look very similar to Native American cultures,
Yeah.
even though they're very different.
Probably came across the Bering Strait 13,000 years ago.
And so it's not necessarily like you could be a different race or ethnicity and look very similar to
So
other
skin
other
color and
groups.
race are not the same thing, and that
But-
is
but they
terribly,
are connected,
You could say that there is a correlation there. It's really offensive and egregious that she would make that claim.
yeah. So there was, related to the way that the left views the working class, there was this book that I read when I was 17 that really informed my view on this, and it's called Intellectuals by Paul Johnson, and he sort of goes through the lives of many of the people who are held up as like the foundation or the foundational thinkers of modern society. And what he points out is that so often these are people who claim to love humanity in the abstract, but in their personal
Yes.
relationships, when they dealt with actual humans, they tended to treat them like garbage. And I think there's a parallel here because the left tends to be much more likely to say, I want to change the entire world. I want to reshape the entire society and change how people think about things, change the way people treat each other. And I think conservatives are much more likely to err on the side of subsidiarity and try to change what's around them as opposed to going for the world as a whole because they're more interested in actual individual people. And so these lefties have this idea in their head of what the working class is as an abstraction. And then when they have to deal with actual working class people and their desires, they come to realize that human beings are messy and they require that you sacrifice your own will in order to care for them. And they're not willing to do that.
I wonder if Marx has some good points about capital and stuff, and I wonder if ultimately a bad ideology. It's broken clock is right twice a day. But my point is, you get these college graduate people that some of the highest salary earners in the country, in the world, and they're greedy and jealous and angry and purposeless. So they feel like something is wrong. Something is wrong with my life. Then they read, Das Kapital or whatever, and they're like, he's talking about me.
Yes.
Because I hate my life. He's literally not talking about you. You are the one. Let's just be real. The intelligentsia are the ones who get executed because they're threats to the revolution.
Oh, yeah. As soon as the new revolutionary sect rises to power, they end up taking out all the people that fought for the revolution in the first place because those are agitators.
They were the ones who fomented revolution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can't have those people in your system.
Nope. Well, we have this other post from Reddit. It's called The Counter Protest from r/Ottawa. Hello, everyone. My name is Mackenzie, and I am not afraid. This Saturday, I will be organizing the peaceful counter protest against the terrorists occupying our city center. Terrorism is defined as the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. People are afraid. Our downtown workers are afraid to go to work. The police is afraid to act. The city has denied me an official protest permit citing COVID concerns. I am not afraid. No, you're a fascist.
Can I say
you're literally a fascist?
Also, can I say like the most boring thing in the world, but I think needs to be said here? Definitely. Like, where was this kind of talk during the BLM riots? Like, how does that not fit the definition of terrorism when buildings are being burnt down?
I don't believe this is a real person. It's probably, but come on. I'm reading some of these posts on Facebook from lefties, and I'm like, dude, you don't actually believe what you're saying, right? Like, you can't be that psychotic.
No, they are.
It's a mix.
Well,
right.
Look, what really is pissing me off right now is how they're like, the school banned the book Mouse. And I'm like, they literally didn't ban the book. They removed it from the curriculum.
You know what
Does that mean the Gulag Archipelago has been banned as well? Yeah. Oh, no, they're banning, they're banning, anti-communist propaganda. What do we do? No, it's just not part of the curriculum.
You know what I would say to everyone who's upset about Mouse? I think, and here's an idea, we should have curriculum transparency to ensure those right-wing fascists don't go meddling with curriculums in ways that parents aren't aware of.
We should have curriculum transparency. I just saw that there was
makes you far right.
Some pushback against that. So making the students' curriculum transparent to the world, is that what it is, or just to the parents?
To the parents and to the community, yeah.
To the community, meaning like it's on the internet for me to go look at?
Anyone could see.
Right.
I'm open to
Open
it.
source.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Public schools.
Here's something I don't know. Do you guys know how many books are in a curriculum? That's like a curriculum is like something they want you to read throughout the year, or whatever.
Yeah.
It can't be that many.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 maybe.
Really,
Max?
just 4 or 5?
Know. It's not too many.
I think maybe per class or something.
Yeah,
like
per class.
That.
Yeah.
But like per English class.
So I don't want to get wrapped up in that whole Mouse conversation again, but just in the context of what these people are saying. When I see this post and it's like, I am not afraid, these people are terrorists. It's like, dude, they're honking car horns. Calm down.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to say I'm not afraid if you weren't afraid. You wouldn't be saying that. You're obviously afraid. That's why you typed, I am not afraid.
No, I don't think it's a real person.
You think it's an AI?
No.
A slider that you can be like, how liberal, how left wing do you want it? How authoritarian do you want it?
Ian, build it.
The AI.
If you put it all the way to the left, it gets you fired from your job.
What I mean is this person is lying. They're crafting a political message for political reasons.
Man, I can't put anything past anybody these days. It's so.
I was buying it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were buying
because
it?
you've seen stuff like this before?
No, what you were saying about the scales.
Slider?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
I think it might be an AI.
Yeah.
They took the political compass.
No, this is well crafted by
that.
a person, and it's probably someone who is, liberal, left, whatever the Canadians call themselves. They don't have Democrats or whatever. And it's their version of establishment, communist, elite type, authoritarian across the board. And they were like, what can we do to push back against this worker uprising? Let's do a popular message. Let's post into, the city subreddit and then make people think it's a popular thing from a regular person. Mm-hmm. A regular person who's like, honking your horns is terrorism. Mm-hmm. No. But when Black Lives Matter caused $2 billion in damages and killed around 30 people, maybe then we can call it terrorism. And I also love to throw it to you, Julie, the January 6th Oh, the police opened the door and let people walk in the building. Terrorism. Yeah, they got a strong definition, don't they?
And when protesters like literally broke down the barriers in front of the White House and were setting fire to the church across the street from it, that was not an insurrection. That was not terrorism. The president of the United States had to be hidden away in a shelter, but that was not terrorism or an attempt at an insurrection.
Right. Well, in here, it's not just Reddit posters or whack jobs who are randomly saying that this is terror. You have our FBI director, Christopher Wray, who has designated January 6th as an act of domestic terror. They are comparing January 6th defendants to terrorists. And so when you have this codified by your top law enforcement official, then of course that is how it goes mainstream. So you have Democratic lawmakers or even judges just say, well, they were terrorists. This was a terrorist attack, and these people are terrorists. So then everybody becomes a terrorist, right? Except for the actual terrorists, the people who burned down cities and, to your point, $2 billion in damages. The FBI has arrested 3 times as many people related to January 6th than they have the entirety of 2020 rioting, which is insane. And you have Chris Wray still lying about it, saying, we're handling both events equally. When we can't read and we can't pay attention to actually what's happening.
Just think about that for a couple seconds. You have people who caused, when we say $2 billion in damages, that's the maximum the insurance companies would pay out. It's not even the total amount. The damages could be way higher. When you have estimates ranging from like 26 to 32 dead in these riots, they burnt down a police station and the police were forced to flee. For 3 months, they were firebombing a federal courthouse. And there's no terror declaration. There's no law enforcement to stop that.
They're dismissing charges against those people. They've already dismissed about a third of the charges related to Portland.
Just think about that for 2 seconds. And then you have, the MAGA Meemaw types who went to the Capitol and the police removed the barricades. The police did that. And you see one cop fanning people. They walk in. Now, there was conflict at the tunnel. People were fighting, and we had Richie McGinnis on the show. He's a journalist who was there. People were shoving with cops and fighting with them, yelling stuff. Yeah. But then you have people who are walking up to a door. The police open the door, and one cop can be heard saying, I don't agree with it, but I agree with your right to protest. As they all come in, walking and bumbling about, the MAGA Meemaw types, they're the terrorists. Madison Cawthorn spoke at a rally for President Trump. Far away from, relatively far away. And they're claiming he was he was involved in the insurrection. And the media is on board. And our law enforcement apparatus is on board. When you have these two very two distinct circumstances, you need to start realizing that they're at war with you, that they want to destroy your life. And what I mean by they, I mean like there are elements in the FBI, not every single person, obviously, but you look at the political landscape. There are powerful connections between media and Democrats, and I'm not speculating. We've got the CNN story where the woman who worked for Andrew Cuomo then became chief marketing officer at CNN and was hooking up with the president, and that whole scandal happens. They're obviously colluding in big tech as well, and they want to ruin your life. They hate you.
And you just have the news this week that a top national news editor at the Washington Post has to recuse herself from her job, from her position, because she's married to the chief of staff to the FBI director, Chris Wray. So think about, the incestuousness. So you have a major newspaper who has lied about Russiagate for years and now is covering up huge stories like the Whitmer kidnapping, FBI kidnapping plot, and certainly has a huge spin on what happened. Ray Epps, that's a conspiracy theory. This is the Washington Post. And then you find out she is married, a top editor married to the chief of staff to the FBI. Her name? Matea Gold. So this was a great Paul Sperry investigative piece on Real Clear Investigations, and he details the whole thing. And this man's father is tied to the Clinton machine. Like it just,
it's a big club, and you ain't in it. That's for sure.
Right. You don't want to be, right?
As George Carlin said, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with.
Right. Once they get you in, they want to keep you in. That's why I don't want to get in. Well, I'd rather do it from outside.
They're losing. They're losing.
People don't act this way if they're winning. People act this way in power when they're losing.
The desperation is
That's right.
Like raiding James O'Keefe, the FBI raid on James O'Keefe. I'm just like, wow, you got to be really desperate to pull a move like that.
You do. And I mean, I think that that's one thing that our side or whoever side needs to realize. And I talk with this, like people, our friend Lee Smith. When you are a political party and you're in charge, you don't act this way if you are winning over the masses, if you're convincing them. Even 30 years ago, if you're a Bill Clinton and you're charming and you're trying to actually bring people together, or at least win office. But this is actually the last gasp of the left, of the radical left. They're desperate, and this is why they are calling people terrorists. That's why they're rounding up Indiana Mimas. This is why the media is so corrupt, and it's all falling apart for them. They think that they're convincing us that they're winning, but they're actually losing. And so that's why it's going to get worse before it gets better. As you were saying earlier.
I've heard that a lot, Mima. Like, what does that mean specifically? Like, it just means like regular person or something?
Regular
or
old
like,
person.
Well, I mean, there were older women there. One Indiana grandma, the Mima, who went through the re-education camp from her court-appointed radical left attorney. And, she was a grandmother of 5, but there were not elderly, 60-some-odd-year-old women who were also raided by the FBI and charged with misdemeanors. So that's sort of the joke. But we're just average Americans, and it was very offensive for those people to be in the Capitol building.
I was thinking about this. 2023 is primary season. Donald Trump, presidential primary season. Donald Trump is already campaigning. He's already got that viral video where he's like, I'm going to be the 45th and 47th president of the United States. And so we know what that is. Like, if you were to ask me, I'd say they planned that because he wanted people to know he's running. He wants the funds, the donations, the interest, but he doesn't want to publicly announce he is. It's very clever. Or maybe it really was just him and some buddies were golfing and he said it, because he didn't care. But this means if Joe Biden is not going to be running for re-election, and I don't think he will be, we'll have to hear something in the next 6 or so months. Because for Donald Trump to already be gearing up, and he's doing his campaigns, he's got 122 million. The Democrats need to start raising money. Yeah. If Joe Biden is going to run for re-election, he needs to start gearing up now, but he's not. I don't think Joe Biden can win again. People hate him. His approval rating's in the gutter. What was the jobs report? Minus 300,000. Minus.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be.
Didn't
plus.
that happen during the lockdowns? Wasn't that like when everything shut down? It was like that kind of figure.
That's scary bad. But my point is,
insane.
If it is true that Joe Biden will not be running for re-election, I think by like June we're going to hear an announcement of something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
Timing,
Joe Biden raised $1.69 billion for his re-election or his election campaign last year. Is that correct?
No. I'm sorry, Ian. I have to correct you.
Joe Biden and the DNC.
It's Joe Biden didn't raise the money. Anti-Trump raised the money.
Yeah.
But okay, so he won
true.
$1.7 billion, and the dude sat in his basement and didn't do
nice.
interviews.
Does that include
what was his
all
campaign?
Does that include all the in-kind donations, billions from big tech who were censoring
I don't know.
everyone, and probably not?
That's scandalous. So where does this money go for? Trump raised $1.96 billion. He was at least out there running around doing stuff.
So, Julie, does this strike you
Joe
as
hiding.
anything? Could it possibly be anything other than political warfare? And how bad do you think it's going to get before the election?
With the January 6th altogether,
Or
I
just
think it's going to get worse.
Everything around it. I mean,
Yeah, all of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is going to get worse. I think it's going to get worse in 2 ways. They're going to ratchet this up. You already see the January 6th committee. They're desperate. They know their time is running down as well, right? Their months are numbered because they're going to lose the House.
Right.
So they're going to do whatever they can. They're going to issue a report. Probably 2 reports. One is that will deal with the insurrectionist lawmakers. They're going to try to suggest new legislation that will deal with lawmakers who act insurrection-y in the future. But also, they're going to tie this to election integrity reform. And so this has been the basis of January 6th since the very beginning, to tie anyone who wanted election integrity, to tighten up the rules that happened in 2020 to. That's the report. That's the excuse of January 6th. Well, then we need all these reforms so this never happens again, that sort of thing. But it's also going to get worse. I'm sorry. It's going to get worse because the American people are going to find out exactly what the government did. Government actors, agencies, political actors who helped orchestrate what happened that day and execute it. And that is going to be mind-blowing to a lot of Americans.
So what do you...
The Democrats are losing so much support.
Right.
Their popularity is dropping so much. They're not going to be able to pass any of this stuff. They're going to try, but they're spinning their wheels.
But then they'll just have it out there, right? So it'll just be out there, these reports. It'll be like the Mueller report. They're still talking about the Mueller report. They want it unredacted. Like, it's over. But you have insane people on the left. You have millions of those people. They still actually think that Trump colluded with Russia, right? I mean, you could tell them anything. They still think that the Covington kid disrespected the elder and, he should be in prison or something.
That
it
Kyle
doesn't
Rittenhouse
matter.
is a murderer.
Yeah. It's not just the left, the political ruling class or the media. It's their followers. It's millions of our countrymen who have completely lost their minds, and they would be happy not just to have the January 6ers in prison, political prison, but all of us. This is what COVID exposed, COVID tyranny. It's what the 2020, and it's certainly what January 6th is. You have Americans who want this to happen.
So let me ask you. You seem to believe that it is going to come out how deeply involved the state was with January 6th. How do you think the American people are going to respond to this? And what do you think the government's response to their response will be?
That's a great question, because a lot of people say, well, who cares? You're going to have half of the country who is going to believe from the beginning it was an insurrection incited by Donald Trump. But you are still going to have Americans. And I think this is sort of the whole Ray Epps thing. That has sort of raised a lot of red flags for people. Who is he? Why hasn't he been charged? Why won't the FBI or Merrick Garland answer who he is? So that's raised a lot of questions. But the government's involvement was deep, and it lasted for months ahead of time. You had something called the FBI Operation Cold Snap, which was launched in the spring of 2020 to infiltrate militia groups who were planning these anti-lockdown rallies. So a lot of it goes back to lockdowns. They had informants in these militia groups. We know that for a fact. And they were responsible for concocting and executing, just like the Whitmer kidnapping probe, most of what we saw on January 6th. Not just the government, D.C. Metro Police, Capitol Police, Muriel Bowser's administration. It was a lot of independent factors, which is why they kept the Capitol intentionally insecure that day, because they didn't want thousands of National Guardsmen there saying, hey, why are you throwing flashbangs into the crowd? Why are you shooting rubber bullets at people outside? Why don't we go inside? Why don't we put up the barricades? Why don't we close the doors if you don't want them? So that is why they didn't have them there.
I think the propaganda's failed. I think what we saw with Joe Biden's collapse in popularity after Afghanistan, what we saw with the ongoing Joe Rogan attempt to censor and everything, it's just not working. And I think regular people, they're just not falling for it anymore. Especially like we read that post from the lockdown critical left saying, like, why isn't the left supporting the worker uprising?
Right.
The message is getting out. They can't control it anymore. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, their ratings are just abysmal. People don't care. They're not listening. They've lost what Mika Brzezinski said. They've lost the ability to tell people what to think.
Right.
You guys remember when she said that?
Yeah.
She was like, he thinks he's going to tell people what to think, but that's our job.
That's economic. So economic hitman wargaming here. That means that's the first stage where they're trying to bribe. If they think their propaganda is not working anymore, that means that their bribes have failed. Now they're going to go to stage 2, which is assassination. So you like not personality assassinations, but like what do you call it when they try to take a character assassinations, imprisonment against people's will unjudiciously with the Patriot Act, stuff like that. We're in that stage now.
Dude, you guys got to understand how easy it is to carry out. So let me slow down. Start over. Governments all over the world assassinate. I mean, it's World War I and stuff like that. We know assassinations happen. But when it came to popular uprisings, there was a fear that you would make a martyr. And so, if you read a lot of the history books, okay, so we have to character assassinate. We have to make them not worthy of being heroes. But these days, man, I mean, first of all, there's that story. I don't know how true this is, but I remember reading some Reddit meme about the CIA's heart attack gun. You ever hear about that?
Oh yeah.
It fired like a dart with like a frozen poison that, like, when it dissolved would just kill you and look like a heart attack or whatever.
Yeah, they testified under oath about that, actually.
Yeah,
I believe.
It's very, very easy to assassinate and get away with it. It's ridiculously easy. People don't understand this. They think we live in this world where, like, oh, they would be able to do that, would be able to pull it off. It's like, dude, They find a homeless guy, they give him a weapon, and they just send him off on his way. You know what I mean?
It does raise flags, though, real assassinations, which is why they go with the characters. And why that's indefinite detention against, like, where people can't even, like, speak out. They're in solitary. So you don't even know they're being detained.
But this is why I bring this up, because they've lost control of the narrative.
That freaks me out.
If they
what will they do next?
Look at they try to
regain control. Drone bombs over cities, like that's the third stage of economic full scale.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that against their own.
I don't
cities,
think so. But you never think the government's going to do that against their own cities. You never think that.
Okay, let me make my point. They need you to work to produce things for the system which they want to control. It's like if somebody wants to own a house, they're not going to blow it up because they can't have it. So a crazy person would, and maybe there are crazy people in government, but the idea is, how can we take control of this resource? We don't want to destroy it. They're willing to tolerate some loss. But my point is, they've lost control of the narrative. So, maybe powerful people, and I'm not saying the grand conspiracies or anything, I'm just saying powerful people get mad and they can be
I think
dangerous.
They have military bases all over the earth, and they're afraid of losing it to China, the hegemony, to go to the power to China. So they're desperately trying to crack down on American dissent to maintain the global military autocracy.
I do not agree.
Yeah, I don't think they're worried about China at all. I think
they're
they like
helping
China.
Yeah, Joe Biden.
Maybe it's a different level of people.
We had who do we have on who talked about Joe Biden's cabinet?
Schweizer, I think.
No. Well, we just had him on. Yeah,
right,
yes, he did talk about Biden and China, but we had someone on a while ago talking about Joe Biden's cabinet has somebody who is very, very pro-China and pro-trade with China and all this stuff.
Remember.
And if you look back at like the Clinton administration, there's all of those ties and all those connections.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I do believe that there's a global movement to unify everything under like a socio-communist kind of corporatism.
Borg?
Yeah, a Borgish state.
Let's figure out
But
the acronym for that.
I think that there are people that with American nationalists that are afraid of losing American control of the global military force. I could be wrong about that, but
I'm
I feel like
pretty
people are
sure.
they're desperate to maintain control.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you one more question. Just about, you sort of got into what you think the government's role in this is. When people start to recognize that, how do you think they're going to respond to people recognizing it?
I think we're in a position now, let's say this was 5 years ago or maybe even 10, no one would, I think, accept that the government was capable of doing this. That the FBI, the intelligence community, the national security state, that, okay, they'll screw around with people, but they're not going to actually have this full-scale operation to shut down what happened on January 6th and then use that to weaponize all of the tools of war against American citizens. I do think, and I think it does play into the COVID tyranny, that people are recognizing that our government is run, not just political leaders, but the people who populate these agencies, the nameless, faceless. I mean, they're Anthony Fauci's, but there's thousands of them who are willing to do anything. They know that they can get away with it. They don't care about your kids. They actually want your kids punished. They don't care about your business. They don't care about your future. They will do anything to keep a hold of power and to get rid of not just threats like Donald Trump or his family, his cabinet members, but even his 75 million voters. So I do think that people are going to be shocked when there's more information, that the information already is coming out in these trials. This is why they've kind of delayed these trials. This is why they're keeping a lot of these men held behind bars, because they don't want them telling their story. But you can't do that forever, right? We learned from Russiagate. We've also learned from COVID. They can only get away with fooling people, concealing evidence, getting their narrative out there for so long before it just crumbles. And then everyone goes, oh, wait a minute, this was all BS to begin with. And we had really bad people in charge of it. Yes.
Absolutely. I think one key difference here, and I'm glad you mentioned Russiagate, because for me, that was really the red pill with respect to the deep state. Before that, if someone claimed that the deep state, or that there was a deep state and it was colluding against the sitting president, I would have said that sounds a little bit crazy.
Seamus, you're crossing anti-Semite point.
Oh, that's right. The anti-Semitic point of no return on the conspiracy.
How will you get back
hierarchy.
down?
So if you believe that there is
a deep state, you're
a
anti-Semitic.
bureaucratic state,
right?
Administrators and people who work in government who are there throughout various administrations and exert influence.
You may be right.
According to this researcher, you believe in an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
And she does research on TikTok, so it's very important
Of
work.
course, yeah.
But No, I mean it's true, and that was a big red pill moment for me.
Huge.
But the difference here is that with the Russiagate scenario, they were going specifically after people who were acting within the political system.
Right.
But with January 6th, they're going after ordinary civilians. So I'm curious about what the fallout is going to be here, because with Russiagate, they just stopped talking about it and it disappeared. I wonder if it's going to be more difficult for them to get away with that, given your average person feels more threatened by what they've just done here.
Right.
Well, the feds raided some random woman's home. Remember that? Do you know about that up in Alaska?
They've raided hundreds of people's homes. But yes,
totally uninvolved people.
Well, they were there, but they had the wrong person.
Right.
But I mean, they're raiding people. They're doing military-style FBI raids with armed agents, pre-dawn raids with military SWAT teams. They have trucks with battering rams. They're aiming rifles at children. They're aiming them at elderly women. They've dragged a disabled veteran, Thomas Caldwell, through the snow and handcuffed him. I mean, the stories of what this FBI has done. And it's not just the top of the FBI, right? It's throughout. It's every single.
Well, they need enforcers.
56 field offices have been involved in this, and they are arresting people every single week. They're trying to get to, in my prediction is they're trying to get to 1,000 defendants by the middle of the summer. So this could be the Democrats' huge talking point. But to your point, Seamus, this is ruining people's lives, and it's not just the family that it happens to. It's their whole neighborhood knows, their their coworkers know, their church knows. Everyone sees this. It is a war on terror, not just how the tools of government authority are being used, but it's also a message to everyone. If you dissent, this is going to happen to you.
Yep. It sounds so similar to the start of like the Bolshevik Revolution or the rise of the Soviet Union. These are the stories that I was told by my friends who grew up in as children in communism, and the stories they were told by their parents about how it got to the point where if you said one bad thing about the party or the government, you were taken away. We're not there yet. We still have shows like this. But we often talk about, when we compare things to history, at what point did people say it's time to leave Germany? Or Spain, for that matter. Spain often gets left out of these conversations, the Spanish Civil War. Communists fighting fascists, and then you get military rule for like generations. At what point do you leave? What do you do? So many people thought it couldn't happen here, and they stayed in their countries, and they paid the ultimate price.
Well, and I think
I'm telling you to leave, Seamus. Get
out. No, I know. You're always dropping these weird
Canada.
little hints on me. No, but I think it's not just about people. It's not just about people leaving. It's about people, the people who stay, knowing when it's time to fight, to stand up for their country, and to say, this is wrong. We're going to speak out against it. We're going to resist it.
We got going for us here is that we're not coming out of a monarchy like the Bolsheviks were. The Russian Revolution was fighting against a monarchy, so they didn't have much choice but to fight with physical arms. We have a democratic process of free speech and things like that in place that can protect our ability to diplomatically coerce the system.
And you're right. And that's why I think one of the reasons they're scared, losing narrative control, means that this upcoming election is panic mode for the establishment. It's mostly Democrats. It is many Republicans, because the populist, surge in the Republican Party is not something the establishment wants. But to your point, Julie, what you were saying about how they're ramping things up for the summer, because they're worried if they lose the House and the Senate, they're not just going to lose the House and the Senate to Republicans. They're going to lose the House and the Senate to Republicans like Lily Tang Williams, who we had on the show, who is like, this country is becoming communist and we have to stop it. Or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert.
Yes, wouldn't that be great?
And
that's right.
And that's what they're terrified of, because it's actually happening.
But we still have a very weak Republican leadership in the House and Senate, and people are very afraid, even when they take over, that this current leadership will not be capable or willing to turn the J6 committee 180 degrees and aim it at the people who have perpetrated this. They don't want to expose it. It's the same thing. A lot of this goes back to Russiagate, because how we got here is that nobody was held accountable for what happened in Russiagate, except for Michael Sussman, like big deal.
And Ukraine-gate.
And Ukraine. Yeah. Oh, no, we've got the Vindmans, now he's suing Trump, and he's like on CNN, and so is his wife. No one's held accountable. So it just got worse and worse and worse. And so I say we went 4 years from the FBI ambushing Mike Flynn in the White House to ambushing the Cubers, ambushing veterans in their homes. It only took 4 years, but why? Because no one was held criminally responsible for what they did, which was perpetrate the biggest political fraud in American history up until January 6th. And everybody's off so far. We've got some drips out of the Durham investigation, but where's that going to go?
Well, maybe there's going to be a big surge in November,
Right.
But not just that, it's the state elections, the governorships as well. And we are very, very close to a convention of states. The state level Republicans are very, very different from the federal Republican leadership.
Right.
So that could be something big. Some people have said it's a bad idea. A lot of people are saying a convention of states is a good idea because then the states can just take the power, change the Constitution, and make big moves. But I think the establishment knows that our processes, the processes that were set up by the founding fathers, work and can save us.
Well, they're not working now. I mean, that's for sure. Especially,
Well,
there's been no oversight. I mean, there has not.
But just to interrupt, I disagree. I think the issue is that culturally, no one's been willing to stand up and use what's been given to us because they've been too comfortable and complacent. But now that things have gotten this bad and the narrative has been shattered, there are mechanisms in place that even the establishment can't stop.
I hope that you're right. I'm a little more skeptical about that because I see firsthand how, everyone basically has been silent in the face of what's happening with January 6th. You're talking about not just the political end of it in Congress. You have this illegitimate committee issuing subpoenas, and they're working hand in hand with the DOJ for contempt of Congress charges, et cetera. You have Joe Biden, for the first time ever, U.S. president, has denied executive privilege to his predecessor. He did it twice. He did it based on the fact that January 6th was so unprecedented, and it went all the way to the courts. And what did the Supreme Court do? Okay, we're upholding it. So you have district judges, circuit judges, and now the Supreme Court, who's going along with the left because they're afraid. So there has been no oversight in the legislative branch of the executive branch, none. And it has to, but if they take over, they have to make sure they do it this time because they haven't done it.
What has to happen is people need to primary all of these
Absolutely.
establishments, Republican types, and bring in more people like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I wish we had, 230 of her because she actually will do it and she feels passionate about it. But there's still a fear factor there. And I'm afraid that if the Republicans do take the House, the Senate is useless. Senate's not going to, you could have 100 Republican senators. They're not going to do anything because they're all basically Lindsey Graham or Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
They are.
Yep.
So it has to happen in the House. And they have to do the same thing. They have to go and zero out. They have to zero out DOJ's budget. You have to zero out the FBI. We are zeroing you out until you are done. You're done taking these. The trials are over. No, we're not paying for any more prosecutors. We're not paying for any more arrests. We're not doing no more subpoenas to big tech. You're done with this. Will they do it? You have to do something that drastic.
If people go out and vote in the primaries, go out and vote locally, and make sure establishment politicians don't win, then yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's not gonna be the apocalypse. That'll be if Trump wins again in 2024 because he's gonna be off the leash. But if populist, pro-America types win their primaries, and then the Republicans take the House, and you get a large portion of the House Republicans as people who say, we're done with this, and it's time to go on the offensive for once, then you're going to see some pushback. You're going to see, I think, the establishment plan January 6th, done. I think you're going to see Republicans making a bunch of moves with their subpoena power. But it only happens if people go out and vote in primaries. Primaries.
Amen. Well,
That's right.
I mean, it's true. It's such a disaster. Only our current Republican leadership could fail to turn the fact that the deep state has literally targeted their own constituents into a political advantage. It's insane.
And you're going to watch Republicans in a few weeks. They are going to continue the funding of the government, the same government that is turning the weapons of war against their own constituents and them.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect example. The Congress, including most Republicans, just voted last year to give Capitol Police $2 billion more. What did Capitol Police do? They turned around. They opened up an intelligence unit for the Capitol Police. You know, the guys who make sure you put your purse through the scanner or tell you, oh, the Capitol's that way and there's, Cannon office building. All of a sudden, they're like, they have a bunch of spies in this office. And they're not only spying on lawmakers, their staff, they're spying on their donors. They're compiling dossiers. Well, why are they doing that? For the same thing they did in Russiagate, Ukrainegate, name it. They have the authority to do it. They're unchecked, they're unaccountable, and they're going to leak that information to the press, right? So all of a sudden this summer, you're going to see terrible stories coming out sourced to anonymous intelligence officials, which happens to be this Capitol Police intelligence unit that Republicans voted to fund.
Yep.
They never learn.
Let me change the conversation and give people a bit of a white pill. You know, it's a little scary conversation. We're talking about all this crazy stuff, but I have a story about the waning power of the establishment and an erupting scandal over at everyone's favorite network, CNN. In this story from Timcast.com, CNN President Jeff Zucker announces resignation. Zucker says he failed to disclose a relationship with a colleague to the media company, but oh boy, is it so much spicier than that. We have this story from the Daily Mail. Devastated CNN hosts defend Jeff Zucker's illicit career-ending affair with staffer Allison Gollust. Brian Stelter blames Chris Cuomo for outing him, while Allison Camerota says he should not resign. Well, this is really fascinating. Chris isn't done yet. Cuomo's lawyer demand to see emails they believe will prove Jeff Zucker knew about his help for Andrew, his brother Andrew, that could cost the former CNN chief millions of dollars after sacked host forced him to resign. All right, let me bundle this up for you guys. First of all, CNN's ratings are just in the total trash.
Yeah.
So the Timcast podcasts get more viewership than CNN does by like 2 or 3 times. That's how bad CNN's doing. What happens is Jeff Zucker, you've got Jeff Zucker, who knows this woman, Allison, what's her name? Gollust. For 20 years.
Oh, wow.
She works for Andrew Cuomo, right? Then she leaves to go work with him at CNN. Chris Cuomo is then trying to help his brother with this big scandal. They cover it up. Chris Cuomo gets caught, doesn't get reprimanded. All of a sudden, we're now learning that they're all in it together. They're all one big happy family. Jeff Zucker then comes out, fires Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, it seems, feels betrayed. Like, yo, what are you doing? Like, come on, man. You know, Allison, she worked with my brother and we helped you out. So then he publicly comes out and he says Zucker was in a relationship with her and he didn't disclose it. So then he's forced to resign. I think there's a bigger scandal behind all of this, because this shows that CNN is directly colluding with Democrat politicians. So I think there's more to it than just this, and we're just getting the tip of the iceberg on this one. But CNN imploding in real time, from their top hosts to the president of their company to the connections they have with Democratic establishment, all being exposed. Let that be a good day for all of you to see the eruption in front of your very eyes. If CNN was a prime vector for Russiagate misinformation, for Ukrainegate misinformation, and Kavanaugh and all that stuff, and defense of BLM rioting and all that stuff. Not only does nobody watch them anymore, but they can't even keep the ship together. It's sinking, baby.
That's beautiful. I'm curious. So how many views do they get?
So I looked up. This is totally independent of these stories. I looked up their ratings. Their total daytime viewership, 443,000 viewers, I believe that's the number.
No way.
And their total primetime viewership is 663. So daytime's usually way lower. But this is a lot. Daytime's a lot of hours. But primetime is when everyone's tuning into the news. So they're only getting just over about 1 million views. But get this. They only get around 230,000 key demographic views per day. 230,000 people between the ages of 25 to 54 watch CNN on a given day. That's it. That's how abysmally bad. So I was saying this before the show. I was like, yo, one segment that we do. So on my Timcast news channel, we average like 250 unique views and key demo views. One segment I do on my channel gets more than CNN's total key demographic daily viewership. Seamus said to me, he's like, stop bragging. And I said, no. It's not because I'm doing well. It's because CNN's collapsing.
No, and Tim does all that without any sex scandals either. And like these people can't even get a fraction of the viewership without doing something creepy. No, but it's true. I mean, it is kind of remarkable to see how abysmal their views are. And it's also a white pill.
I'm not really. Yeah, I don't want to get too down on Zucker for this one
Why
because
not?
I think he really loved that girl. I mean, they've been together for 20
Ian,
years. Is that right?
Are we gonna
No.
Sweet.
They've
This
known
is
each
not a
other for
rom-com,
20.
buddy.
And they've been. Katie Couric said they were joined at the hip.
Yeah.
So apparently they're like
friends.
They were like
And
friends.
only recently he's saying they started,
Ooh, so it's like a little
Oh,
will
okay.
they or won't they kind of thing for a while.
Okay, so
He
maybe
escaped the
they-
friend zone.
Yeah.
So
That-
they
what was that-
fired
what-
him from
good for
CNN.
What was that joke you had earlier, Seamus?
I don't remember.
You were like, he said that he should have revealed the relationship sooner and didn't. And you were saying like the joke.
Oh
is-
my gosh! Yeah, no, she was like, it was
The
a
manager- the
miscommunication.
manager-
She talked to management and was like, he was like, we're just like talking. It's not, you know what I mean? He wouldn't define the relationship, and she's like, well,
You're-
I know who will.
Well, no,
Like,
you were saying like
I'm gonna tell CNN.
The manager goes to Jeff Zucker and says, "Are you in a relationship with this woman?" And then she turns and
wouldn't
goes,
call it a
"Yeah, Jeff,
relationship.
are we in a relationship?"
that's right, that's right, that's right. We were talking about this
Nah,
earlier. She's
we're
like,
just
she's like, yeah,
friends.
Jeff.
What are we?
He's like, the executive's like, so what are you guys? She's like, yeah, Jeff, what are we? Like, what's this? He's like, oh.
And then he's like,
Just zoom in on his face real slow. Yeah. Music.
"Yo, this is a ridiculous scandal."
I
But
think he's
it's-
like, this is like an easy pass for him to get out.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted to
jumping.
quit. But here's
Yeah.
the crazy thing: they were saying this woman, this woman, Alison Golust, was going was potentially going to replace him as president. So this was months ago. They were
Wow.
like early last year. They were like, she may be tapped to be the new president when he steps down because he was talking about leaving for some time. Now all of a sudden he's leaving because the whole thing is imploding.
Yeah. So if nobody watches CNN, where do they get all their money from? I'm genuinely curious.
You know,
'cause
it's
I
like
don't know.
Subsidy.
But
Subsidy.
isn't it also completely insane,
AT&T,
you
I think.
guys?
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
it completely insane that the people who make all of their money lying all the time don't conduct themselves in an
That's
upright
crazy.
manner in their
Yeah, I'm
personal
surprised.
lives?
Yeah, that's
It's
the weird
so
thing.
bizarre.
So weird.
Who would have
You
thought?
would think they'd be honest in their
Who would have
personal
thought
Yeah,
that like
right.
you can't trust people who you can't trust?
People are calling for Brian Stelter to be fired or quit,
Yeah, I saw
resign.
that,
Why?
yeah.
Because he avoided reporting on this ongoing major scandal at his own network that people have known about for some time.
Well, he feels sorry for you. Was that him during
that
the
what he
Project Veritas video in their film? He's like, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you.
Brian Stelter.
I believe it was Stelter.
That's
Oh,
weird.
didn't
Sorry
they
for
they
him.
confronted him in like was it a parking garage or something?
When you
Yeah,
arrest,
he's like, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you.
was
This
just trying to
guy's
get away
being
and he
super
couldn't.
condescending.
when
yeah.
you arrest a murderer, you don't cut off the finger that he used to pull the trigger. That's Stelter's the finger.
well,
CNN's
finger.
is the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of joking because you could always terminate Brian Stelter. If
can you
does
imagine if he
something
did
wrong.
report that story on air though?
The president of this company, my boss, is in a secret relationship with the chief marketing officer. Everyone here knows it, but no one's saying anything because we're scumbags.
I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them.
Look, the
Yeah.
bigger story is that CNN's one of the principal propaganda machines, and it's just like we're sitting on the. Here's what I want you all to imagine this. It is a warm summer night. We're all on the beach. There's a nice fire going. All right, there's a nice fire going. It's not too warm, and your friend reaches over, puts their hand on your shoulder, and hands you a nice cold beer. And you all look off into the shoreline, and you see a gigantic ship that says CNN just sinking and in flames. And then everyone holds
Oh
up
my
their
gosh.
drink. Salute!
What a great
Cheers.
night.
Tim, that's like, all right, first of all, I cannot condone that kind
I
of
know,
talk.
right?
That's really fun. Do you remember when someone made a meme of where they like photoshopped the CNN logo onto a wrestler's head and Trump was punching it and CNN literally
doxed
doxed
that
him.
guy.
Yeah. And then
Insane.
not
And
only
they
did
banned the
CNN
video.
dox them,
Yes.
they banned the video, they doxed this kid, and then they reported on their own doxing thinking it made them look good. They're like,
Yeah.
we found him.
He'll never do this
We
again.
feel sorry for him.
They didn't,
Yeah.
they didn't dox him. They threatened to dox him.
Yeah.
They said, we
That's
know his name.
right, that's
and if
right.
if he agrees to never do it again, we won't release his name. And
Yeah.
everyone was like, yo,
You
What?
guys are
That's
crazy.
That's crazy,
You guys are
dude.
crazy.
Didn't Chris Wallace just go to CNN?
Yeah, CNN Plus, I
That
think.
was a good move.
Yikes.
Well, he was just like, I would like to jump on that sinking ship.
That sounds
and then
fun.
and then he did.
Perfect timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You know, I wake up in the morning and I get out of bed. I turn on the Keurig and it pours me. We use biodegradable Keurig cups. They're very, very nice.
It's true. They're
Great stuff.
disgusting.
That's
And
nice.
I think it's fantastic.
They're good.
And then
Okay,
I get my
great.
coffee and I put some cream in it, and then I take a sip, and then I walk over to my computer and I press the button, turn the screensaver off, and I see big story, CNN ratings in the gutter, racked by scandal, and I just look up and I say, it's gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
And I get to
can
work,
see it.
and oh man, it feels good. It does because
No, it does.
it's
They're
really
liars, they're evil.
it's really frustrating to see. We can talk about the Joe Rogan thing where Brian Stelter is like, we have a newsroom and we try so hard, and people just trust Joe Rogan because they don't trust us. Like, oh, poor baby.
It's like,
You
can
know, I
you
love to
imagine?
see
Why
it. You love to
not?
see it, man.
Yeah.
You guys, they lied every day about Russia. They staged Chris Cuomo's quarantine.
Yeah.
They pretended he was in quarantine. They lied. They know they lied. Brian Stelter knows they lied. These people are evil. Their actions are intentional. We all know it, and we are all gloating in their glorious sinking ship.
Well, it's more than that.
Watching their glorious.
Yeah,
ship.
we're watching it sink. Here's the other thing, though. It's not as if they just lied, right? They have never acknowledged or apologized for any of those lies, even though they scolded you for believing that they were lying the entire time that they were lying. And so I'm not just watching this gloating. I am genuinely happy that there are fewer people consuming their lies.
I want to give a shout out to our good friend Michael Malice. He says, white pill. After CNN decided to take on Joe Rogan, both the president and most popular host were driven out of their jobs.
Oh, man.
Awesome.
Mess with Joe, you got to go.
That's right. There you go. I love it. That's perfect.
I love when people are saying, denounce the honk and you get the bunk.
Yeah.
Because the conservative leader got ousted or whatever.
Yeah, these are good mottos.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is so. Ian was saying before the show that he didn't really want to cancel people like CNN, and I think that this is actually a form of actual justice, not social justice.
That's right.
Because they've done nothing but lie. We know they've done nothing but lie. You can see Chris Cuomo coming up out of his basement when we know for a fact that he was in a fight with a guy on a bike in the Hamptons 2 weeks before.
Right.
We know he wasn't quarantining. We know they're all lying. They're just full of garbage, and this has finally come up for them. And yes,
Dude,
it does feel good.
That
They
guy
said-
did call him
they
Fredo.
said-
Yes, it does.
So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He said that was like the N-word for Italian
Yeah,
people.
exactly. It is.
Just for him, yeah.
It's not, but
Not
okay.
at all.
Very not. It's like very much not. It's not even
like
close.
saying you're dumb.
Oh man! So CNN lied over and over again, claiming that Joe Rogan took horse medicine. They all know they lie.
Yeah.
And when I see these posts on Facebook, they're like, Joe Rogan took horse medicine, and then I comment, I'm like, you know he didn't, right? Like, you know a doctor prescribed him tablets, and they're like, yes, but the medication in the tablets is the same medication they use for horse medicine. So I was just making
like-
a point.
well,
it's like,
what-
you know you're lying, dude.
Yeah, like what went into his mouth is horse medicine. What comes out of your mouth is horse crap.
There you
all the
go.
time.
Yep.
Literally never an honest
On
word from
fire
these people.
tonight, Seamus.
Also, wait, there's something. Yeah, fair enough. There was something I wanted to mention here, but my train of thought was
Good.
derailed.
So we got a
I know.
story we
got
gotta
a train
talk
of
about.
throat. My train of thought. Oh no, I just want to say one thing about with Ian. To be fair, Ian kind of turned around on that point before the show about cancel culture. One thing that drives me crazy is this left-wing talking point where they say cancel culture is just about accountability, even though they're just trying to get like average working class people fired from their jobs, or political activists they don't like punish for things they said 10 years ago. And then when we're against cancel culture, anytime we want someone to be punished for an actual crime, they go, I thought you guys were against cancel culture. You think people should be punished for actual crimes that they've committed, or should be thrown out of the organization they're at
Whoa.
for actually breaking the rules? I thought you were against cancel. I thought you were against firing people for 10-year-old tweets. What's the deal? Hypocrisy much?
Yeah.
I want to say, first, I want to show you the story from Rolling Stone. Ian, I got bad news for you. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young reunite in removing
dear
their
God.
music from Spotify.
No.
We support Neil, and we agree with him that there is dangerous disinformation being aired on Spotify's Joe Rogan podcast.
Dude, you guys
Well,
support
no,
Neil,
stop.
yes.
What information? What did Joe say? What disinformation? You don't even watch the show. None of these people do. We to go off what you were just saying, Ian. We need to stop pretending that these people are being serious. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea why they're even mad. All they know is someone on the TV said Joe Rogan bad, and they went, I'm down for some free press.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Tim, I think that their target audience is most at risk for COVID.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so
Yeah.
good seeing those guys
That's
together
true.
again, man.
That's true. And you know what? This is the demographic that watches CNN.
Exactly.
So they see all the lies. They walk right into it. Look, man.
Well, I'm going to listen to it on Amazon, so
I gotta
There you
say,
ding dong.
Joe came out. He did not apologize for his guests. He said they were credentialed. He said, I'm going to have these conversations. But he said, this is really funny. He was like, I'll try to balance it out and make sure we have, a more establishment voice or something to that effect. The following show. So if they do Robert Malone, they'll have someone else on. And it's just like, Joe, you're saying that the one time out of 100 guests, you have one critical opinion, you're going to add in another one of the 99% mainstream majority opinions everyone's already heard. Like, Joe pointed out he had Sanjay Gupta and Mike Osterholm on his show, and then he had Peter McCullough and Dr. Malone. It's like, so you split it up pretty well. But they're not satisfied with that. So when he, makes some concessions and Spotify says, okay, they wanted a misinformation policy, we'll do it. It doesn't matter. Spotify came out and said, okay, we'll do your misinformation policy. And now Crosby, Stills, and Nash join in and getting their music pulled.
Get rid of it.
They're not going to stop because they don't know what they're talking about. They are not talking to you, Spotify. These activists are not saying, Spotify, we have a demand. They're saying, hey guys, I'm yelling at Spotify right now. That's what they're doing. They're not communicating with any of these people. They don't know why they're mad. They don't know why it matters. All they know is they're virtue signaling to activists they want to spend money on their music and give them press because they're has-beens. And then what ends up happening is you get 30 people on Twitter who never buy your product. And then the company goes, 30 people on Twitter are complaining about our product. Better pull it. They were never going to buy your product in the first place. So it's just frustrating when people keep giving in to obvious BS and they don't stop. When will people learn? When will anyone learn that when they come out and say, we demand you do this, if you go, okay, I'll do it. Now we demand you do this, then this. Next, we want these things. We have this list of demands. It's never going to end until you say, shut your mouth, you're deleted. If as soon as they said, pull my music, Spotify went, you got it, bye, delete. And then Crosby, Stills, and Nash comes out and says, we're going to reunite. Say, have a nice day. You're old anyway. Bye. Just tell them to shove off. Look, I get it. Spotify is going to lose money. They lost their shares went down because of the controversy. Many of these lefty, people will pull off the platform. They knew that was going to happen when they signed Joe Rogan in the first place. So make no concessions.
Well, yeah. Also, I have a hard time believing that before signing any kind of contract with Spotify, Joe Rogan didn't consider this possibility and ensure that he would not be removed from his platform because some know-nothing celebrity said he should be.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if there's anything. I really mean it. I would be very surprised if there was anything that Spotify could do.
Well, to me, this just looks like a bunch of old or out of touch artists who are like, oh, here's my chance to get 2 minutes of fame. Because somebody said India Ari took her music off Spotify and Mary Trump. I have no idea. Mary Trump took her podcast off Spotify.
Big.
Who knew she had a
breaking
podcast?
news,
Right.
Mary
You know what
Trump
this
has a
does mean,
podcast.
though?
What?
Huge loss.
For young people who want to try to get a Spotify account, upload some of their music, there's more opportunity.
That's right.
There's
There
more
you go.
opportunity you're competing for less audience.
Self-regulating.
Or for more audience, I should
Yeah.
say.
What's
There aren't as
funny
many artists.
about Crosby, Stills, and Nash is, again, exposing the hypocrisy of the left. These were the counterculture, right, back in the 60s, the baby boomers, the anti-war, freedom, etc. And now they're just aged, grumpy old men who are trying to, cut down the young upstart. It just, once again, the left is just full of hypocrisy. These are the guys who, 50 years ago were leading, music's attempts to, in the 60s, they were powerful in terms of their messaging. And now here they are trying to, who would have seen this coming? But it just exposes what the left is.
Didn't Neil Young have a free speech tour?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah,
I watched him talking about COVID a couple of days ago,
Right.
and he was like, "We can beat this thing." His voice is way higher than you think when you listen to him talk. we can beat it. I know we can. We can do it. And it's like, what is he talking about? Beat this thing. You don't talk about like the common the rhinovirus. Like, we're gonna beat this thing.
Well,
it just
that's what
is
Tim's
there.
saying. They don't even know what they're talking about. I mean, they couldn't even put two sentences together and make sense of anything. But they got their headlines and. That's all they care about.
You just got to stop letting, for whatever reason, people seem to think that the kid throwing a temper tantrum on the playground, demanding that you give him the basketball, is going to stop having temper tantrums when you give him what he wants. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, when the baby starts crying and screaming, like the toddler comes in screaming, I want ice cream. You got to be like, you can't have ice cream for breakfast. And they'll scream and they'll cry. And then you just be like, that's not doing anything for you.
What if they're still screaming 8 hours later?
You're a purveyor of misinformation. Like, nope, sorry, no ice cream for
I
you,
used
buddy.
to enjoy
You're 4 years old. When did you learn?
My parents, I was lucky that my parents would punish kids like that, and they'd just isolate them and make them suffer and cry through the whole thing until they're done crying. But like, what if the kid keeps crying and keeps crying and keeps crying? They used
forever.
to beat the
They
kid.
can't.
Yeah.
They eventually
They
run out of cries.
They need ice cream as fuel to keep crying.
Yeah,
They'll run out.
You know what happens when a kid is crying? I'll tell you this: when a toddler is crying, a young kid, saying, I want something. And you say, well, you can't have it. And they keep crying and you walk away. You know what they do as soon as you walk away?
Stop.
They stop crying and look around to figure out where you went,
Right.
why you weren't giving them attention. Because crying doesn't work. They figure out crying doesn't work and they'll stop and they'll try something else. So you can't, when the baby starts screaming and crying, you cannot give the baby what they want. You have to be a responsible adult and say, no. Crosby, stop it.
Which is
Neil.
exactly.
I understand why you're sad.
Which is literally exactly, going back to our earlier story, why the truckers need to stay the course and why we cannot buy their BS about these people being Nazis or white supremacists or whatever, because that is their temper tantrum.
Exactly. Ignore these whiny babies.
Yes.
Yes.
They're like, I haven't slept in 5 days. And it's like, well, I can't cross the border anymore, so deal with it.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. So if you are one of these truckers protesting, you're actually giving them a good thing in the same way that a parent who ignores their child's temper tantrum is giving them a good thing, because these left-wingers who are slandering you and making ridiculous accusations about you, as soon as they start to realize that those really aren't going to work, some of them, some small minority, maybe even many of them, are going to actually try to pursue real strategy for affecting the change they want to see in the world. And I think it's going to make them more responsible adults, and it will actually reorient their goals away from leftism. So you're helping them.
I just want to say, I don't want to be
become better
overly,
people.
I don't want to seem overly pessimistic on this just because I'm frustrated with these weirdos. Let me see if I can pull up Joe Rogan real quick on Instagram, because I want to show you guys something that's a total white pill. Is it just Joe Rogan on Instagram? Is it going to work?
Yeah.
Let's see if it works. All right. So where's that post he made? All right. We got this post from him. So one of the most important things about Joe Rogan's statement on Spotify is that aside from people like, Tulsi Gabbard and Tim Dillon, who are very obviously fans and friends of his, if you scroll down through Joe Rogan's post, all of these
Yami
people,
Park.
tons of verified Instagram users are all like, Joe, we love you. You're the best. We're on your side. I was reading an article and it was like, here's a list of celebrities who came out in defense of Joe Rogan on his Instagram post saying awesome things about him. And it's like Crosby, Stills, and Nash joining Neil Young. Yo, you guys are on the wrong side of history, as the left likes to say. Joe Rogan's got mainstream. Look at Jewel. You guys know Jewel?
Yeah,
What's
she
that?
had a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
You're doing a great
She was
job.
on a
Keep it up.
show, and it was so good.
Yeah, she's good.
I only
Yeah.
saw like a couple hours.
It's not like she's the biggest celebrity in the world right now,
she's
but you've
B-list.
got, look at all
Right
of
now,
these,
you have high hopes.
look at all of these verified users. Some obviously we know.
Hey,
but
Christina Pazitsky.
who's that?
Christina P. That's Tom Segura's wife.
Well, there you go.
She's awesome.
All of there's a whole bunch of mainstream celebrities,
UFC
Jamie
fighters,
Kennedy, UFC
yeah.
fighters, who are like, Joe's awesome. Joe is winning this one, even when he comes in and can see, cede some ground there. I'm not a big fan of it, but the point is, as much as it's annoying to see, look, you got Kelly
many
Slater,
blue
pro
checks, wow.
surfer. They're not on the side of these crackpots. We are winning. Free speech is winning.
Right.
The right to free inquiry, freedom of association, it's all winning. And as Michael Malice said, when CNN took on Joe Rogan, their president and the host of their biggest show got ousted. So boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Victory.
How wonderful.
Feels great.
Can't wrestle with that guy.
I think, I saw a post, I saw a news story and it was talking about all of the celebrities cheering on Joe Rogan. And I'm like, that's the message people need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
That with all this stuff going down and all of these media outlets being like, oh, Joe did this and Joe did that, and these celebrities are angry, you got to see the bigger picture. What are high profile and regular people
Yes.
actually saying? They don't believe in the cancel culture. They don't care for it. They're fans. They love his show. He's got 7.6 million views on his post. He's winning.
Yeah, as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm.
Kevin James
Oh,
comes
really?
out. Yeah, Kevin James.
And how many new subscribers? How many people have never heard of him before?
Before this kerfuffle?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, usually this stuff always backfires too, which
Oh, yeah.
the left never figures out. So it's like, pick your fighter. This guy who, you had people like, Grandma, wait, who's this Joe Rowe? All right, I'm going to
yeah.
just sign up, subscribe to him.
Yeah.
Oh, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Wait, what have they done for the past
Yeah.
50 years?
Right.
Nothing. So it always backfires. So he's picking up new attention. He's picking up support. He's picking up new viewers. And it's just completely backfiring on them once again.
And
I
you know
can't-
what?
mhm,
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
you go, Drew.
I was just going to say, I can't help feeling that Joe Rogan is right now the voice of populism, which is highly encouraging, because to see all these celebrities being on board with him, and then also to see all the normal people who completely agree with him, Very encouraging. I do think
agree.
that we are winning on this.
I just want to pull up this one more post to make sure everybody knows.
Oh yeah.
From the
What's that?
Associated Press.
Amazing.
No evidence video color was manipulated in CNN news segment September 10th. And then this post showing CNN's version of the video with Joe Rogan makes him look like he's dying.
He looks like a Smurf.
He does, yeah.
We didn't edit that. No,
it's how it
looked when we got it.
Yeah.
Experts
People-
say this was not
Yeah, right.
doctored.
They're trying to argue that it was like, oh, but people looked on different devices and that's why it looked that way.
No.
I did the experiment myself. I took Joe Rogan's video on the same monitor, same computer, screen, and I played the video. I screen grabbed it, and then I took the CNN clip and I screen grabbed it. And you can clearly tell they're different, by the way. I put them into a graphic Illustrator program, vectorized the images, and then analyzed the color palettes to break it down.
Whoa.
And you can see it is manipulated.
Clearly.
Dude, he literally, in the top photo, he looks like one of those guys in the artsy hipster part of the city that dresses as a statue and like stands around for money.
looks
That
like
is not how a normal human looks without editing.
No,
He
but
looks
listen.
like OJ, like trying to do his own video, but like he's got the camera in the wrong
Terribly, yeah.
spot.
Oh my gosh.
But this is just the point. When all of these mainstream personalities, high-profile celebrities, and regular people are like, you rock, the narrative doesn't make sense. When the AP is like, there's no evidence, and then you look at it, you're like, yo, I have eyes. I can see it.
I know. Who are you going to believe? Us or your lying eyes?
yeah.
But one thing I wanted to mention, piggybacking off of what you said a moment, or to respond to what you said a moment ago about the fact that they don't seem to understand that they harm themselves and their message by going after these people because they end up promoting them. I think the reality is an infant throwing a temper tantrum or a toddler throwing a temper tantrum isn't all that concerned with the optics.
Yeah.
And if they got to the point where they could be concerned with the optics, they wouldn't be throwing the tantrums anymore.
But if the tantrum's working, then why do you care? You know, like it works, it works.
Exactly. And they've been spoiled for way too long, and people are starting to go, okay, no, like I have to go to work.
Yeah.
I have to do my job.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to this.
Think about what we're watching, right? CNN has a temper tantrum. Joe Rogan responds very calmly and positively and says, I'm a fan of Neil Young. It's great music. Sorry if I made you mad, guys. You know, we'll do better. Very adult, very mature. The temper tantrum doesn't work. Imagine you're watching, you go to an ice cream shop and you see one kid screaming and banging on the counter, give me ice cream, ah! And then the other kid is like, mother, if I get an extra scoop of ice cream, I promise to do my chores when we go home. You're going to be like, oh, that kid's very well behaved. And that kid's a little
Yeah,
ish head,
exactly.
you know what I mean? That's what we're seeing from the outside. You're watching CNN have this tantrum and you're just like, they've lost their
But
credibility.
the reason why kids have the kids who have the tantrums all the time have the bad parents who respond to it, right? So that's the lesson. So as a mother, then you walk away. You don't even engage the kid. The kids who have the perpetual temper tantrums are the ones with the mom who keeps appeasing them. So this is what's happening there. You're talking about a bunch of toddlers and bad mothers.
Looks like
If
Zucker
you've
just
got
walked
kids,
away.
if you've got kids and they're complaining that they want something, you got to make sure you get the paperwork drawn up, that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and you make them sign that contract and you litigate everything and say, hey, don't cry. We do the paperwork. You want one scoop of ice cream? Well, I want the dishes done, so sign here. All right, initial there. All right, we have a contract. Here's your ice cream, and we'll get the dishes done.
Well, it's also
Teach them a good lesson about how
Yes.
corporate world works.
Yeah.
it really the longer the image is up, the more astounding. like what kind of middle school shenanigans is that? Like I don't
Seriously.
like him, so I'm gonna make him look like Drax.
Yeah.
It's the most obnoxious. Let's make him look ugly in the picture.
Yeah, he looks ugly now.
Dude, I remember when when I first heard the story about how they changed the color. I didn't see it from Joe. I didn't see it from anybody. I was watching the CNN video, claiming it says he took horse dewormer right there from. They're lying. And I watched the video and I was like, yo, Joe looks bad. And then I looked.
I don't want that horse dewormer
right?
stuff.
Right?
Right.
Yo, it's so insanely obvious what they're doing. I feel like, we're all popping out of the Matrix and they're like, stop, no, don't.
Exactly.
People just started waking up to the insanity of the alive. I feel bad for regular people who are still trapped in there.
Yeah.
And they think they're right because you can trust CNN.
But how do they respond? So let's say it's the case, because trying to look at this from the lens of someone who still trusts CNN, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit here with respect to critical thinking abilities, right?
Yes.
But if CNN put this on air and they really didn't edit it, he just happens to look like he's from a different species in it, but they didn't notice that and still went to air with it, that's almost just as bad, because at the end of the day, you're getting false information as a viewer. So I'm really curious how the people who are diehard fans of this network or who are loyal to it would respond to something like this, or
Seamus.
could respond to something
They
like
don't
this.
care.
CNN told me that they are the most trusted name in news.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, they told me that too.
And that's, and
Yeah.
to be honest, it might be true, and it's a low bar.
It is very low.
And they
Yeah.
told me about that apple. Remember that? This is an apple.
Oh,
I
Remember
don't
that
remember
commercial
that. I
they
didn't
did?
know.
Remember
Right
when
after
Don
Trump was elected, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were like, "This is an apple. It's just an apple or whatever." And it's like, we're not fake news. Like, we showed you an apple or something. And I'm
It's
like,
told you it was an apple?
Oh, they're building
I,
cred.
I do remember when
try
Don
it.
Lemon was like, "No, it may be preposterous, but was the plane swallowed by a black
hole? I know.
And
It's
then the lady on
Good
on
stuff.
CNN goes, "Well, you know, Rhea, even a small black hole would swallow the whole universe." What? I'm not kidding.
got
That
worse.
actually happened.
Yes, I
and
remember
I'm like, "Yo, first of all, there's no way a black hole swallowed the airplane. Second of all, a small black hole would not swallow the
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 universe."
entire universe,
That's
or
not
else
how
we
black
wouldn't
holes
have a
work.
universe like that,
Right,
or we
there's-
wouldn't have black holes. One or the other, you know.
two things.
This isn't that complicated. Do you think the jet got swallowed up?
Wait, let me just. I kind of feel bad right now because
No, don't.
we get more views than CNN does.
We're punching
So
down,
we're
Tim.
punching
you're
down.
right.
We're bullying
We
CNN.
are.
We need to
Good.
help them.
No, how?
We
Well,
need to. We
should
need
bring-
to not pull up the ladder.
we
This
should
is
behind us.
constructive.
We should bring CNN on the show to help
Yeah.
them get the word out about their channel, and maybe they'll get more subscribers.
Oh my gosh, bring John CNN on.
Yeah,
The man himself.
Zucker has no ties now. Maybe he'll come on and
yeah.
speak all for us.
He'll be like, I did the Photoshop. It was Microsoft
Hey, wait! He wants revenge on Chris Cuomo now for costing him his job.
Yeah.
Someone come in here.
Chris did that Photoshop. He's been messing with Premiere a lot lately.
What if he came in with like a big stack of documents and was like, "Here's everything CNN's done."
Yeah.
Bye.
And
Like,
it's
this is all like furry fanfics.
Wrong stack. Maybe that gets the other
It's weird.
stack.
It's like, oh, everyone.
That's why I
on
went wrong.
every story they've ever run, they have the truth. As like when you write the news, you write it, and then they write the fake version and archive the real story, and then publish the fake one. And they're like, well, so remember that one story about Trump? Here's the actual story. We actually do
For
write
reference.
it.
Right.
Yeah, for
just
reference.
Oh my God.
Well, it's because they want to know the
Gotta say
history.
the
You know what I
opposite.
mean? Mm-hmm.
Exact opposite.
You know, so I thought about how crazy it is with all the fake news. Think about how it's going to impact history.
Oh, I know.
And people are going to believe the
That is
lies
history.
forever. It's going to be 100 years, and they're going to be like, Donald Trump was colluding with the Russians.
That's right.
I know.
And that was
And-
CNN.
dude,
Remember, CNN was the first network on January 10th, what year was it? Not 19. 2017. January 10th, 2017. They ran I think they won an award for it. I think they won a Pulitzer Prize
of course.
about the dossier and the briefing that Jim Clapper did with Trump and with Jim Comey to tell them about the Russian P tape. Right, so this
Oh,
is
that's right.
So this really launched the P tape, the dossier. BuzzFeed also published it that day, but CNN was responsible for really launching Russiagate and legitimizing it, saying that Clapper and Comey had met with Trump and alerted them that they had compromat on Donald Trump, and so that's where it started.
Also-
and so this is good karma.
Yeah, also middle school behavior. Like, I'm going to say someone peed on him. Like, it's just
Super
complete
middle school,
nonsense.
yeah.
Like, complete disgusting nonsense. Totally depraved.
How insane was that?
That was
but hold on.
absurd.
Do you remember the story from the Huffington Post where it was like a tape exists of Trump somewhere doing something
In an
Where-
elevator.
No, where he was, we don't know, and what he did is you were unsure of.
but he did it.
But journalists know it happened, and they're trying to find out what. It's like
God.
But again, millions of Americans still believe that happened.
Yeah.
They still believe that there's a tape with Donald Trump at the Moscow Ritz with prostitutes urinating in front of him. They're like, yeah, that tape's there.
Well,
It's like, no, it
hold
never.
on. I gotta be honest. I honestly do believe that Trump will have done something like that in his life, but whether there's an actual tape of it in the circumstances they've proposed, well, that's outrageous.
Right.
Well,
But the reason it works is because Donald Trump is a crazy guy.
Yeah.
well,
You know?
yeah, no.
He's got a
And
golden,
that's why people believe. That's why
he's got a
they
golden
believe
toilet, right?
Does he? I don't know.
Yeah, doesn't he have a golden toilet?
Yeah, in Trump
That's what I
Tower.
heard.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
I heard
CNN
that.
says.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I want to
good
say
for
one
your
thing.
skin.
You mentioned history, and it's true that there are probably a lot of things in our history books that were just part of media propaganda, and we believe them today. However, I will say this. The New York Times tried as hard as they could to cover up the Holodomor, and that still came out. The New York Times also very much underreported on the Holocaust. That still came out. So I think it doesn't always happen. But I really genuinely believe that when we need it, the truth does come out.
but Seamus, think about what you just said, and think about the New York Times lying to get us into the Middle East. They're still around.
No,
The
I
New
know.
York Times
They
has
are no,
done
it's
all
true.
of those things.
It's true.
And people are still like, I'm going to read the New York Times.
But that's
It's like,
also
yo, maybe you shouldn't.
I agree with you, but I think a big part of that was because prior to the internet, your average person who was aware of these lies because they found them through research couldn't point them out.
Yeah. And it was hard to find, it was hard to research because they were the arbiters of morality and truth.
Exactly.
But now we are in a different age and information has been decentralized. So with that being said, smash that like button, honk the like button. One like is one honk.
Yes.
And we're going to go to Super Chats. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, share the show if you'd like to support our work, and go to timcast.com, become a member to directly help us out. Make sure that we can keep doing the work we do. And we're going to have a members-only, uncensored podcast going up around 11 p.m. tonight. You're not going to want to miss it. Now, let's see what y'all have to say in the Super Chats. I think there's a lot of honks.
Yes.
Wimplo says, honk. All right, that's a good Super Chat.
Yep.
All right, Bobby Bob says, good luck to the counter-protester. I don't think they will be able to be heard. You know what's going to happen? The counter-protesters are going to show up, and they're going to have, like, lefty signs, like saying, down with fascism or whatever. But you're not going to be able to hear a word they say as the horns are honking, so everyone will assume they're actually part of the same protest. Like, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? Everyone's going to be, hey, look, more people showed up. All right. Rekra Morrison says, it's cold up here. Hong Kong needs hoodies and toques.
Yes.
Oh, we should make a free Hong Kong sweater.
And Jessica did.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Hey,
she was looking
there
at
you
how
go.
much they're earning. They're doing great. And she
Oh,
made
and
a
she
hoodie.
made a hoodie?
Yep.
So
And
if
stickers.
If I kind of want to, I don't know if we can do it in time is the issue, but I wanted to send a bunch of the hoodies up to people.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
But I don't think we can get them made in time is the issue.
Oh, maybe not.
Because it takes like 3 weeks
Oh, that
to get
sucks.
to get them shipped and sent. Because if you do a big order. But, if you need
try.
a hoodie, free Hong Kong. Do they do flags?
I don't know.
I want to get a free Hong Kong flag.
I'll ask Jessica.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
We'll put up a flag post and like put it in front of the castle and just like have this big flag that's free Hong Kong. Free Hong Kong. All right, let's read some more super chats. Christopher Knowles says, Blackstone's would you rather? Would you rather imprison an innocent person for a crime committed by a criminal or imprison a criminal for a crime that never happened? Is it? Oh, I see what you're saying with Blackstone's formulation. Yes, Blackstone's formulation.
I guess I'd rather imprison the criminal for a crime other than the one that he committed than an innocent person for a crime that he didn't commit.
Neither.
That's
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah, I'm going with neither.
Yeah,
don't know.
neither.
Oh, I didn't know that was an option.
It's
not,
always an
but-
option, Ian. It's always an option.
I refuse
You
to
can
play.
reject a false dichotomy.
Yes,
whatever you
do
want.
it.
I don't want to see you held hostage by these kinds of hypotheticals.
All right, Bill
Care too
Cox.
much about you.
Bill Cox says, Tim, if the military intervenes without proof that the protest is no longer peaceful, they're in violation of Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right to peaceful assembly. Honk.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know if it matters at this point.
Right.
I mean,
That stuff doesn't matter.
right. Look,
Doesn't.
January 6th is a really great example of it not mattering.
Doesn't.
On, as Seamus mentioned, they went to the White House. They tore down the barricades.
Yep.
They set fire to a guard post. They set fire to the church across the street. The president was rushed down to a security bunker.
Injured federal agents.
Bunker
Injured
boy.
federal agents.
Yeah,
Bunker
Bunker
boy.
boy.
And they made fun of
they
him.
laughed. Ah!
That's right.
Exactly. And then when AOC like literally made up a story, they were like, "Oh, she's so brave."
You know,
Murdered.
regarding
She-
the
And let's
AOC
remember, too.
lied about that
Yes.
entire story.
Yes.
She made it up.
But isn't
Talk
that
about
telling though?
evil.
Isn't that telling though? There's something very interesting here. When Trump actually had to be rushed to shelter, he was in a vulnerable position. He didn't advertise that because I think real leaders know you should not advertise your vulnerability. Whereas AOC wants to appear as a victim, which is why she can never be a good leader.
And let's remember what happened after Lafayette Square. They didn't call those people insurrectionists or traitors or whatever. Congress held 2 hearings against the police about what happened
Yep.
in Lafayette Square. All the rioting charges were dropped against those people, and they were attacking federal officers on federal property, leading to
In front of the
prompting-
White House.
In front of the White House, trying to jump over the fence, and but they held hearings in Congress not about the insurrectionists, but about the police and how they behaved.
People were literally like trying to break into the White House. So like, do you think you might have overreacted there in your response?
All right,
Right,
we
remember
It's
that?
insane,
Yeah,
yeah.
the press briefing.
Yeah.
We got Matt Price. He says, shout out to the guy that does Common Sense Soapbox. If y'all know who that guy is, you should get him on the show.
That's hilarious. So Common Sense Soapbox is a second channel I have. It's a collaboration between myself and the Foundation for Economic Education. And we just try to do educational cartoons about economics. So we just released a video yesterday, which is the second part in a series we're doing, trying to illustrate the absurdity behind the philosophy that led to the lockdowns, illustrated through an analogy where characters are on an island. So I'd highly recommend you all check that out.
All right. Reclaim the Frame says, if Trump were to win office again, do you think he would pardon those charged for January 6th?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just stepped right in there. I thought it was my question. Probably.
Oh, it is your question.
Yeah,
I
take
believe
it
that. I believe that he. I don't know. He says stuff and then he
Right.
doesn't
Exactly.
do it.
No, it's
Hold
true.
on. Let me back up here. I think that he probably will he'll go with his friends first, anybody who got in trouble. And then I'm sure hopefully he will pardon the people who were charged with the lower crimes. But I think he'd have a hard time pardoning anyone who was charged with attacking a police officer, that sort of thing, even though those charges are sketchy too.
He's got one. If he gets reelected, I guess, or he gets elected again. That's probably the way to put it. He doesn't have to
question.
worry about a reelection, so he's off the leash. He's going to be like, rubber stamp, baby. I'm doing what I want.
I hope so. I mean, he left a lot on the table when he left us with. He created a lot of problems, and he left us with a big mess.
And I'll say this, even though Trump has certainly not kept all of his promises, he would probably see it as his prerogative to make an example out of the people in the deep state who went after
yes.
him and his
Yes.
followers. So
Yep.
I think there's some reasonable hope that he actually would pardon.
I have none of that hope. I don't like the superhero worship. I think he's like just a corrupt dude that
I don't
wants power.
Sure. So, but even feeling that way, I think the deep state is such an obvious enemy for him that it would be a really straightforward move, if that makes sense.
But they'll just
for him
kill
to
the
pardon
president when they try and oust the deep state. Like Kennedy, if you try and take out the FBI director who's been there for 40 years, they're like, no, this is my government, dude.
Why
You're
did
only
they
here
kill
for 8
Trump?
years.
As much as most people probably, look at the JFK thing and kind of like, roll their eyes left and right, it is still getting a bit speculative. We don't know exactly what went down with any of that stuff.
know.
The official story is
One guy did it all, and then
but
that story
the
is
problem
nuts.
I know,
It's
man.
really interesting. They found Oswald up in the it was a school or something
book
where he worked,
depository or whatever.
and then but it was like 40 minutes after the execution, and they found Oswald eating lunch in the building. Then upstairs in the same building, they find his rifle with ammo,
He's just chilling.
as if he put it there. What idiot
Well,
would
and didn't he
assassinate
say
a president
he
and then
was
leave his
hungry?
gun and
He was
walk?
hungry.
Well, also,
Yeah, he's like, "What are you doing? I'm a patsy. I'm being a patsy." I think he loaned the gun to a group that had been doing some like pro-Castro stuff, and they were like, "Hey, let us borrow your weapon."
Ian,
I don't know. Yeah, I
Conspiracy.
don't know about all that, but I
Yeah.
will say this: when somebody assassinates a political leader, especially the president of the United States, like they usually make a big deal out of it and tell people what their political demands are. They leave a manifesto. Not what happened here. Very strange. It was a very unusual situation.
I don't think we have the time right
Yeah,
now in
that's
super
fair.
chats
That's
to litigate the entire
I'd love to see Trump go after the
JFK
deep state. Is
documents
my
and-
point. I just don't see it
Yeah.
happening, but I'd like to see it happen.
Well,
Has to
I'll
happen.
just say whatever ends up happening in the future, I hope everybody stays safe. And I do think, we always need to remember that the honking is working. Nonviolent civil disobedience is extremely effective. The establishment politicians are freaking out over the great honking. And we have a chance with the upcoming primaries to get in a bunch of pro-America individuals who push back on the establishment. I think that should be our focus. So let's read some more.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Jay says the honking reminds me of the hype that came with Untitled Goose Game. Someone should alter that game's logo to take the circle cross out, fly the honk, and confuse the sheeple. Have you guys played the Goose Game?
Yeah.
It is one of the best games ever. You
So-
play as a
I
goose
just watched
and
you
you just
play
run
it,
around
actually.
causing mischief.
You are a goose?
You are a goose, and you
On what platform?
every platform.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, like it's like a video game.
yeah, it's
video,
It was like an
no, it's not.
isometric top down.
Yeah.
And there'll be there's like a guy and he's farming, and you run up and just like honk at him, and he gets scared, and then he drops his pail or whatever,
And you
and
can
then you
steal
run
the
around.
pail.
There's like a little kid, and you can chase him honking, and the kid's freaking. It's just so much fun to be the goose. Honk. Everyone loves saying honk too because honk was already a meme, and now people are honking, and it's like honk, honk,
Honk.
honk. All right. Vasht says, I mean, if you want the honking to stop, you just got to stop the mandates. You don't even got to think about it, bro.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. Trust the experts.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
truckers know what should be going in their body.
Yeah, that's right, man.
I like what you said. Just comply.
Yeah.
Nathan says, heading into work, wanted to get a shout out to Anna for our 2nd wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's lovely. Good for you.
Congrats.
Warms my heart.
RVDL says, HONK! Let's get back to work. All right. AWM says, I see Ian rolled a 20 on his first statement.
Oh, I felt that too. It's critical. You ever play D&D? Julia, have you played D&D?
No.
I did not
No,
think
I'm
she...
sorry.
If you roll a 20 on a 20-sided die,
This
Oh,
side of the
okay.
table
It's a
is for the
critical
people who
success.
I'm
listen.
sorry. No,
Yeah, yeah.
no. I avoided those
So
people.
basically,
they were
it-
way
it-
smarter than I was.
In D&D, if you want to do something and you roll a 1, it's like the worst possible failure.
Okay.
And then if you want to do something and you roll a 20, it's like, you've done it. It's perfect success. So the joke is Ian made that he often makes statements that are either a 1 or a 20.
Oh, well, now you tell
I'm
me.
all in. I swing for the fences
Okay.
every night.
All right. Now I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna say it before we're done. We're gonna get a 1 or a 20.
Yeah, we'll hit a 20.
All right.
Hit a 20.
Hit a 20 every time.
Can I give a quick shout out to your biggest fan, Liz Sheld, who is also my podcast partner? We only have a few million less listeners than you do,
Yeah.
but she listens to your show every day, and she told me what I had to wear today. So
Oh, what,
Nice.
the free the 1/6ers? Or?
yes, well, actually, she wanted me to wear an AC/DC shirt or Van Halen. So
Oh, sweet.
I had a Def Leppard one, but I wore this instead. But
What's
I
the
promise you,
podcast?
Love this one.
What's the show?
It's called Happy Hour with Julie and Liz. It's just basically to amuse ourselves. But she loves all you guys. But
Awesome.
All right, let's read
there's
some more
my
here.
free promo for her fandom.
Right on. Camel of the Mojave says, Karl Marx got old and acknowledged that capitalism solved all the problems he complained about when he was young, and as people not to pay attention to his manifesto. Is that true? Sounds like something somebody would say to like smear a person they didn't like.
Don't know.
I don't know. That
That
makes him
is
sound
true.
way
That's-
cooler, to be honest.
Yeah.
It does. But didn't people like say a bunch of stuff about a bunch of figures? Like, well, actually,
Deathbed
Darwin,
conversion
yeah.
story
Right,
type
right.
things are pretty common. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Cox says, 1 like equals 1 honk.
Yes.
Honk from Saskatchewan. Stand together and we will free our children. In the last 5 months, I have gone out 0 times besides work and this.
Yeah.
All right.
Here, here.
Wow.
All right. Let's see what we got. Daniel says, Ian's AI Reddit poster idea was a cartoon skit worthy.
That's so
There's like
funny.
one robot. It's like Brainiac from DC who's just like, I will control Reddit to control the world.
It's not far left
Hello.
enough. I need to
Why
slide
would
it
you
over a
want to
percent.
control Reddit?
Superman like breaks into Brainiac's headquarters and he's like, Brainiac, what are you doing? I will control Reddit and take over your planet. And he's like, no, I can't stop him. It's working. All right. Phil Goen says, Tim, do you recall when activists seized the Canadian railways in 2020? Reservations were demanding RCMP, not police reserves. Reservations were demanding RCMP, not police reserves, but were they the upset with lack of policing? Look where Trudeau stood. I'm not sure I'm understanding it correctly because of some grammatical issues, but I do remember when there was a big protest with the reservations and all that stuff. I mean, it's just obvious that there's great double standards here. I mean, you got to think about it, bro.
Yeah.
Eric Miller says, look up Mao's The Great Leap Forward and compare it to the Great Reset. A lot of similarities. Yeah, someone pointed out that they're actually calling this year 1 or whatever.
my
Like, what was that Pol Pot, year 0 or whatever?
Yeah, year 0.
A lot of them.
Are
the
they
French
really?
revolutionaries
Who's
wanted
calling
to do
this
that
year
too.
one?
People were saying it's like year 1,
my goodness.
after the pandemic or something.
I believe it.
I was thinking about
Yup.
changing the year to like 13,000 and making 0 the day that the comet hit.
The comet hit in the
12,800 years ago when the comet hit North
one?
America.
You're so many steps
Which-
ahead
which
of
End
me.
of the
was
Younger
that?
Dryas period.
No, which comet was
The
that?
one that caused the Missoula flood.
But there was what's the name?
I don't
of
know
it?
the name of it.
Because I probably
look it
could
up.
remember what you're talking about by the name.
Oh,
Because I was reading something really cool that they were saying that like gravitational shifts aided in the slamming of the
Oh, interesting.
the meteor that killed the dinosaurs or whatever. Crazy stuff. Who knows though? We are but small specks on this planet thinking we know so much. All right.
Well, I know so much. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mavis says, Tim, you're right
I'm
about
a
the
cartoonist.
Democrats being desperate. I saw an ad on YouTube today featuring Pelosi begging for money because Republicans are outraising and outspending Democrats.
That's right.
That is correct.
Money for
Right.
what though? What are they spending this money on?
Who,
Political
Republicans?
ads.
Yeah, 1.6 billion, for instance, that
Oh,
Biden,
Biden?
raised.
Oh,
Yeah,
Biden.
on ads.
Yeah.
Just TV ads.
Ads. It's mostly advertisements, but there's also consulting. There's
Consulting. That's where it gets like it's such trash. Like, hey, how you doing? Good. How are you doing? Thanks for consulting.
Yeah, but political consulting's real. They'll
Yeah,
call a
but it
firm
could be
and be like, we're trying to get, middle class white men. What do we do? And they'll be like, so we've got data from the past 5 elections. Here's what we're seeing. Here's the media. And they pay for it. But a lot of it's ads, buying advertisements. And that's why when Michael Bloomberg was running, it was crazy YouTube ads. YouTube ads was just
everywhere. We did a cartoon about that for Freedom Tunes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was crazy. They were really everywhere.
It was like, if you were on YouTube, you were like, all of a sudden I have a lot more money than I should have had because Michael Bloomberg dumped like $500 million. It was like $100 million to digital. But when this, I'll tell you this, you guys, this election season is going to be so intense, 2022. Mm-hmm. YouTubers in the political space are probably going to make like 3 or 4 times as much money as they normally do.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Every ad slot will be filled. It's going to be nuts. But it's going to be nonstop for in the middle of this year. We are going to see political ads like it's already going to start probably. I mean, you're talking about Nancy Pelosi already. The midterms are this year. So from like this point forward, we're going to see a dramatic increase in revenue for all YouTubers and all websites. And then 2023 is presidential primary. And it is so intense right now. Mm-hmm. It is going to be, I mean, we're talking about 5th generational warfare. We're talking about propaganda.
It's going to be
war.
crazy.
Money is the
people going to be smashing getting the silverware and bailing off the Titanic. That's what that makes me feel like. People scraping for ad revenue, talking about politics.
Well, because it's not just congressional races. I mean, you got governor's races in every major state,
That's right.
The Midwest and Florida. I mean, you've got Georgia. So it's not just those congressional races. People are going to be inundated. I wonder what Republicans are going to spend all that money on, though. That'll be interesting to watch.
Ads.
Billboards.
But where? I mean,
Super Bowl commercials.
Just
I don't know.
what they're doing, what their message is going to be, where they're going to target it. That'll be interesting.
Man, I don't know. DBZ Dragon says, reading constitutional law has taught me one thing. It is important to read your Bible. But why is that?
Huh.
Why is that? Seamus, do you have any insights on why that might be?
With constitutional law? I mean...
Why that would lead someone to say read the Bible?
Yeah, like Blackstone's formulation.
That's true.
Yeah.
That was...
part of it.
When I read that, I was kind of like, wow.
Yeah, well, Jordan Peterson talks about how the Bible laid out how it was possible for a slave to have as many rights as a king, which is one of the things that they did put into effect. This is one of the laws laid out even in the Old Testament, which the left loves to knock.
Brian Beatty says, free Honkistan. Free Honkistan.
Honkistan, huh?
Honk.
We're leveled up.
All right. Matthew Hammond says, can we get Mark Levin on to discuss Convention of States? He wrote the book, The Liberty Amendments, that discusses what needs to be passed in a Convention of States. I'd love to. I mean, he does his own show, but he's on Sundays, though, right?
I think so.
I mean, if I would be honored.
That'd be great.
It would be an honor and a privilege. Antonio Gonzalez says, Borg, Bolsheviks operating for repressive governments.
Haha. I love it.
The Borg.
A Borganization. That word came into my
Yes.
thoughts the other night.
Bobby Bob says, the year is 2030. The resistance is pinned down. From over the hill, Lily Williams appears on horseback. Robes flowing in the wind. Gold AR held above her head. Freedom! She rides down the hill and the battle is won.
Oh my gosh.
But how old is Lily? It's 2030.
It doesn't matter.
Only 8 years
it
from now.
doesn't matter. She will be there.
She is fine. She's never going to die.
I didn't say she wouldn't. I'm just saying, is it going to be cyborg Lily?
Definitely.
Williams?
No, that's not
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's not my mom's age.
She's gonna be like, she's gonna have like a cyborg, she's gonna have like a laser gun on her arm and
Yeah.
Cybernetic
one eye, and
Sounds
she's gonna be
great.
like, I am freedom.
Yes.
Williams.
Clint Torres says, go lick a boot. Now there's a t-shirt. Go lick a boot for our Canadian friends.
That's hilarious.
Go
That's
lick a
awesome.
boot. So many good t-shirt ideas. Maybe we can get a website like, the really best politicalshirts.com
second
or
best.
second. We're not
Second best.
No, maybe
political
like
shirts.
even better politicalshirts.com
political
or like
t-shirts.
better than that other guy's website
Yeah.
.com.
That's too long.
Better than the other guy's t-shirt website.com.
Perfect.
Tiger says, you wear a mask for so long you forget who you were beneath it. V. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure that's Alan Moore, but still a good quote. Molan Labe says, it's not just January 6th defendants, it's also two-way community with arbitrary ATF rule changes. Gun tuber CRS Firearms was just arrested and charged with 7 felonies for a drawing machine gun and obstruction for getting married Please look into it and spread info. Whoa, that's crazy.
What?
Dude, I'm telling you guys, it is going to get really, really bad this year. It's going to get really, really bad. They're going to go after soft targets first. Easy, political activists, members of the two-way community especially. They're going to do everything they can to try and shut these voices down. People in media will probably get censored, but it's really, really risky for authoritarians to go after prominent voices because it creates a splash. And that can create a massive ripple in dissent. So what they'll do is, when you look at the censorship on Twitter, here's a really easy way to understand this. All of the regular people with small accounts who are tweeting learn to code were getting banned. When I tweeted learn to code, nothing happened. I tweeted learn to code several times, like, let's see it, come on. They wouldn't take me down for doing that because it would prove everyone right. But these smaller accounts that didn't have that many followers were disappearing one by one. And I met a lot of people at these events. They were like, my account suspended. All I did was tweet learn to code. Because if you don't make a big splash, they'll come after you. That's the crazy thing. And what they do is they erode the base. Then in 5 years, when the base is substantially weaker, then they can get rid of, everyone else. All right. Darius says, Tim, I think you may have missed mine, or I missed you talking about mine last time, but look into CRS Firearms arrested for selling bottle openers with diagrams of auto sears. Really? It's like arresting someone for sharing knowledge. Crazy. That's crazy. That guy says, I can't help but notice that the latest CNN scandal headline repeatedly uses the word consensual. I guess they're trying to push the new narrative that at least the newest scandal wasn't criminal.
Ooh.
Yo, how many scandals do they have now
So
in the past
many.
month? That's kind of crazy.
Well, I tweeted that I really thought it would be lies that took CNN down, but apparently it was going to be a mass inability to keep their freaking pants on.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Isn't it crazy that far left people aren't really sexually moral? I don't know. It's just
I don't
bizarre.
know.
You
That's
couldn't-
All right, we got
That's crazy.
Hugh says, longtime listener, Tim, love your content. You help me find meaning in this meaningless world. Get Kim Iverson on your show.
Again,
We have had her on the show,
Yeah.
and I think we're going to have her on the show again, right?
Yep.
She is the moderate lefty person who recently tweeted she's voting straight ticket Republican because she's sick of the mandates, and I'm just like, wow. There you go, man. More and more people are like, I am done with this.
We should have her and Batya together.
That'd be really
That'd
cool.
be so great.
Super cool. Artindi says, hey, Tim, I saw Will of the People and it inspired me to turn it into a mini video game. It can be played for free in browser on itch.io under the same title. Hope you all enjoy it. Ooh, you want to check that out, Ian?
Yeah.
Itch.io, Will of the People.
What is it? Itch.io?
Itch.io, ITCH. So we're working on a sequel to Will of the People called Pain. And we have a lot of the instrumentation done already. I just got the a mix. And I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I hit up Phil Labonte and asked him if he wanted to help with the lyrics and the vocals, and he said yes. So I don't know if he can, though. But that'd be really, really cool. It would be an honor and a privilege to be able to work on a song with the legendary Phil Labonte. So that'd be super cool. It's a video game, you said?
Yeah.
What do you do in the game?
I don't know. I'm
We'll
just
check it out.
looking at it now.
It would be cool if it was a text adventure game. I like those from back in the day.
Oh, yeah, like Zork.
Yeah. All right. Deli Oplis says, Tim, why does your impression of Chris Wallace sound like your impressions of Mitch McConnell? Because they're both turtles.
They're the same person.
Right? How would you do either of them, Seamus?
You know what? I don't have an impression for either of them, if I'm honest.
How could
Seamus
you
can't do it.
not?
I guess
Can't do it.
he just doesn't have the skills to
Do
pay
it.
the
Look,
bills.
I have the skills to pay the bills. I can't keep giving it away for free.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
It's
I
funny.
haven't heard either of them speak in a while.
They're just turtle voices.
Just like turtle boys, like kind of like that. I don't know.
This is Chris Wallace.
Just talk like this, kind of.
Yeah.
You can hear the
I'm Mitch McConnell.
I'm Mitch McConnell. Am I not McConnell enough for the
Yeah, that's
McConnell
good.
Club?
And I to be honest, like Chris Wallace is more turtley than Mitch McConnell is. But I when I do Mitch McConnell, I make him very turtley
looks
because
like a turtle.
I have just like disdain for the man. So.
Yeah.
Well,
All right. John Witten says, all they have to do is park the trucks nose to tail, side by side, lock the doors, and walk away. And it would take the government a month or more to clean up the mess. Oh, man.
Yep.
That's no joke, man. Rob says, did you forget The Rock also commented on Joe's post? Come on, Timmy. Yeah, The Rock, man. It's amazing to see. That's victory, man. When The Rock, when The Rock's, what's the saying? What's The Rock's cooking or whatever?
If you can
Yeah.
smell what the Rock is cooking.
Yeah, can you smell what The Rock is
I
cooking?
smell it today, Rocky.
Freedom! I think. I don't know.
Or he
Is-
wants
is-
to go on the Rogan experience.
No, I think what's happening is these celebrities are relatively vapid individuals, but they're realizing Joe's winning. And so they're like, yo, I'm going to be with
Get on the
him.
train.
Like, we always loved
Right.
Joe. What are you talking about?
They're like, if I'm going to do a new movie, I need to go on his show. I'm going to be nice to that guy.
Yep.
Bon Johnson says, Tulsa, Oklahoma, frozen over. And my boss told me the roads were clear. Saw cars smashing into a divider wall. Turned back. I got stuck a mile from our house. Currently walking back home and watching the show. Hey, man, don't freeze to death.
Be
Stay
careful.
safe.
Try that dragon breath, that Wim Hof method if you
Yeah.
need warmth.
Is that the secret?
Yeah,
or what?
sharp inhalation, then a strong exhale. Just like,
Breath of fire. Yeah.
you do that for like a minute straight, and your body temperatures. Apparently, you go into like a psychedelic trance. You do it for like 6 or 7 seconds, and your body temperature will
Really?
kick up. Yeah.
Michael Williams Jr. says, more honk talk about American convoy. I want to see it. Honk.
Honk honk.
Honk. Free honk. Click the link in the chat. Free honk. Go to timcast.com, click the store, and get your free honk shirt. It's like kind of hard to say if they're really enunciated. Otherwise, it sounds like you're saying free Hong Kong.
Exactly.
I know that is what I thought you said.
Free Hong Kong.
Right.
I was like,
Just get the
what's happening in Hong
honk,
Kong?
honk,
What am I missing?
Kong.
Right.
Free honk.
Honk. It's got to be
Honk.
declarative.
I got a shout out up there.
Where?
Someone said Jordan Peterson's the man.
Yes.
Ridiculous said it. Thank you.
It's not
So you know they
obvious.
have that AI that can generate someone's voice. Like they made one of Joe Rogan. They took it down, but that's actually kind of crazy. If I was someone like Jordan Peterson, I would be really scared of people like Seamus, because Seamus could say a bunch of crazy things and then just put it on a video and claim it was Jordan Peterson.
what I do.
Everyone would believe it.
Really?
That's what I do, yeah.
Yo, this
I
is
want it.
whoa! I just saw this.
I
Tony
want it.
says Dave Portnoy is officially suing Julia Black and Business Insider for defamation in response to the most recent hit piece published today, with Penn earning call tomorrow. Dave Portnoy, you're the
Yes,
man.
come on our
I
show.
wish you victory and great fortune in going after. I read that story. It was absurd. I heard what Dave said. Yo, these people are unscrupulous. They publish fake news and defamation, and they think they can get away with it. And I'm glad to see Dave is pushing back. Don't screw around. These people should not be screwing around. And I hope Dave wins. They smeared him. It's been a while since I read the story, but it was just so dumb. They do these things where like someone claimed it was true, therefore it is. And then he came out and he was like, hey, I can rebut this. And they don't take his comments and stuff like that. It's all dirty games, man. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, smash that like button, because one like is one honk.
Hong Kong?
Go to timcast.com, become a member, help support our work. We're going to have a members-only show coming up for you around 11 or so p.m., the uncensored version, extended extra half an hour of the show. And you can follow us at Timcast IRL, basically everywhere. You can, again, subscribe to this channel on YouTube. You can follow me at Timcast on Instagram or and anywhere else. Julie, do you want to shout anything out? You got a
No,
book?
just my book. It's available on Amazon, I think, Barnes & Noble. My work can be found at amgreatness.com. And just thank you for having me. I learned a lot, so many things. But
Cool.
the Goose Game for sure. Top,
Yes.
Yeah, that
top
game
of
was
my
Goose Game,
list.
sure.
Top of my
She
list.
taught us about government
D&D,
interference and FBI.
right.
We taught her
You
about
guys-
a goose game.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Exactly that. So thank you guys for having me.
So I'm going to plug my stuff here. I guess I have to be careful to make sure this is zany and wacky enough for
Yeah.
Tim, who shamed me at the beginning of the show.
hey, be
for
funny.
too boring.
Shut up and
just
make
like it
jokes,
takes-
Seamus.
I have a wacky YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes, and tomorrow we're going to be uploading a cartoon about Justin Trudeau and the Great Honkening. So stay tuned for that. YouTube.com/FreedomTunes. Go over there, watch it, like, share, subscribe. I think you guys are going to love it.
You can follow me at iancrossland.net. Check out my social media there if you want to follow me all around the internet. Great to see you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Julie, for coming. It's a wonderful conversation.
Thanks,
Always
Lydia.
good to get experts on breaking news like January 6th hearings. I am Sarah Patchlitz on Twitter and minds.com. You can follow me at either of those places.
We will see all of you over at timcast.com. Become a member. Check out the members-only segment. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, guys.